The council meeting today of the 22nd of February 2024. Councillor Harding, do you mind opening up with a karakia or a blessing?
E te kura matua tina koe, ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa, e ino e tātou. Tahia te ara e tako tōnei, tuia i runga, tuia i raro, tuia te ngākau tangata, mauri he rongo mau, mauri tū, mauri oho, mauri tau, tihei, mauri ora. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor Harding. Councillors, we are all in attendance here, which is great. We've got our members of the public here as well. Again, if we have any declarations of interest, please make it known. No apologies, so we'll move straight into the public forum. And our first speaker is Christopher. Go for it. You're up now. Have you been shown how to use the microphones?
Push to talk.
That's it.
Push to stop talking.
You've got 5 minutes, so the time is yours. We usually encourage if you've got the councillors to ask questions. Sometimes you'd like that to be done in that time. It makes life a little easier for you. However, the time is yours.
When do you ring the bell to start?
You can start as soon as you start, and that's when the timer will start. We have a wonderful Carolyn here who will make sure that everyone stays on time.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Application to speak at public forum. Do you have a copy in front of you already? Yeah. I'll go through it quickly just so you get so we get a sense of what I've written, and then I can move into my handwritten notes. Subject: Kāinga Ora social housing developments. Kāinga Ora's social housing developments is a complex failure unfolding in its current form, in my opinion. KO has set out to blindside the community, blur reality, and misrepresents the facts as I see it. KO must stop now and engage with the community to enable proper scrutiny of what is required for social housing in Whangarei. Following on, I would now go as far as to say Housing New Zealand, KO, are untrustworthy and incompetent. This has been borne out by their actions, inactions, and the behaviours that I have seen time and again. So how might Housing New Zealand's special housing operation affect Whangarei and the region more widely, and its culture? Culture being the ideas, customs, and social behaviour of a particular people or society. Well, in my opinion, given the scale, intensification, designs of this special housing operation, and the nature of some state housing tenants, who we realise struggle with mental, emotional, physical, physiological, criminal, and financial dysfunction, and in many cases all of the above rolled up into one. Whangarei and the region more widely, if saturated or swamped by Housing New Zealand's special housing operation and is used as a dumping ground, Whangarei will continue to struggle to retain, find talent, and in totem, making the city and the region an undesirable place to live, work, play, and stay. We need people with skill, qualifications, education, and experience to want to come here or stay here or to move here to move this city forward. You should all be very concerned. I believe you will not be immune from any negative fallout from the Housing New Zealand special housing operation, whether that be intergenerational investment, reputational or legacy, or finding high quality job candidates. And I see you've got jobs in the local leader. We're looking for an infrastructure planner, a manager climate change adaptation, manager ICT. I'm calling for Housing New Zealand to do its job properly. That's all of their job, all of the time. As far as I'm aware, they are paid well to do it. I am also calling on Housing New Zealand to manage their tenants properly. It is not my job to do it, nor is anyone else in my neighbourhood. To fail is not an option. There's too much at stake. I doubt whether the good people at the EDA shaking their tushy and their pom-poms would be enough to overcome any negative sentiment following any disastrous outcomes from Housing New Zealand's special housing operation in Whangarei. I am aware the new government has launched a review of Housing New Zealand. The results and/or recommendations will not be known for a period of time. Given that I am addressing the full council this morning, I strongly urge the WDC to make provisions to contend with Housing New Zealand's special housing operation and to take managerial action immediately. I am a representative of the Kensington residents who are affected by the Housing New Zealand special housing operation. In all of the meetings I have attended, and it's all of them, nobody has spoken of not accepting state housing. So no NIMBYs here. To the contrary, there have been many, many positive stories and shared experiences. Remembering most of the Kensington residents knew who their neighbours would be before they purchased their properties. I represent these people's concerns about the unprecedented scale, intensification, the designs of these new buildings, along with the genuine concerns, fears of who's coming to live right next door, times 12, times 20, times 40, times 120, times 300, and times 150,000. My personal thanks to those at Council who have heard from us, listened, and are there to assist us. Oh, the bell.
Bang on time. Well done, Christopher. Councillors, is there any questions that you have for Christopher? No questions? Well, Christopher, I just want to thank you for taking the time to come in. I really do appreciate it. As you can understand, kāinga ora is not something which council can actually control. And we've also got, I should also point out, we've got our planning. Dominic online here, and I should have actually said that to the councillors beforehand, who he deals with the planning and regulatory side of things. So he's taken notes to what you've said as well. So
thank you, Vince. And I am aware that you're not directly responsible for Housing New Zealand, but you will all be affected. And that's why I think it's really a more senior level. It is a government level. This is where it's come from, and Wellington. I think perhaps my follow-up speaker might have an idea or two that might be able to help council, because if we don't help each other, then we're all going down the ship.
Thank you again, Christopher. Appreciate your time, mate. Well done. Our next speaker is Veronica. And just like Christopher, you've got 5 minutes, Veronica. Take your time. Yeah, you'll be fine. You're amongst friends here. You're amongst the community, so don't worry about it. And again, once again, Carolyn and Danielle will keep an eye on the time there for you.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak to you all. So thank you, Christopher, for opening the door for me. And look around the room, I do see some good friends here. I'm a ratepayer, and I've resided in Kenfield Road, Kensington, for more than 29 years. During this time, I've seen many changes, some good, some not so good, but welcome planned, collaborative, community-focused initiatives. I'm one of the residents affected by kāinga ora's walk-ups developments, and I champion our communities united, collective concerns beginning with a lack of public communication from either WDC or Whangarei, signalling these developments onto the many concerns about inadequate and ageing infrastructure, traffic movement and safety concerns, stormwater runoff, adjacent property privacy, overshadowing and obstruction of sunlight, and much more. From the very first day we witnessed geotech drilling in our neighbours' front lawns, we began lobbying Whangarei. Whangarei District Councillors, Whangarei District Planners, thank you Dominic, engineers, central government, ministers, both now ex-Labour and current national ministers, for answers to our concerns. The replies have been vague, not so helpful, or not that helpful or insightful, which required us to source our own answers. And Whangarei leaflet dropped in random through Kensington mailboxes was an invitation to join KO in their community drop-in centre session. So I'm nervous as. Some of us residents went to that August 3, 2023 session, and we all left. When we all left, we were more anxious and frustrated because of lack of information shared. Like this said, the Whangarei District Council has identified Kensington as a high growth area with zoning rules that allow for medium density development. These developments are strategically situated within easy walking distance to parks, shops and essential services. The council has established a plan that focuses on meeting demand for housing, enhancing amenities and developing necessary infrastructure, among other key objectives. My question, what data is available to us, Kensington residents, in documented form to justify going ahead without stakeholders and community-focused needs assessment? Tuesday, 13 February 2024, our community group held yet another meeting to specifically listen to Jeff Murray give a presentation about KO and their social housing projections. Discussions did get heated, but primarily the presentation gave most attendees the impression of being a cut and paste, fit the template production. However, in response to a specific question about the dire situation of water and stormwater drainage capacities, parking, traffic and road movements, Jeff clearly announced that he expected council to meet the infrastructure provision as a result of paying development contributions. Did you know that? Sorry. I have made a worrying observation during this presentation after both Councillor Phil House and Councillor Simon Reid spoke, and it is this. Right now, Whangarei is virtually the only player in Whangarei in respect to infill housing and development of our suburbs. From the uncertainty and hesitation in answers we heard from those councillors present, I've read between the lines that Whangarei District Council have no particular provision for the sort of scale of development, and it's alarming about how the nature of our existing community could be changed without consultation with our community and the council and key stakeholders. Now I have some questions, but I want to get onto my subject because I think I've got the answer. Throughout New Zealand, communities and some councils.
You've got a few more seconds to go through, so just...
Some councils are opposing Whangarei social housing developments, which suggests Whangarei and councils need to work with affected communities a lot more and focus on developing a collective housing strategy which would significantly improve communication between all parties. A collaborative approach would clearly identify areas of Whangarei district responsibility together with other housing agencies, and more importantly, the affected communities would be involved and their voices would be heard, and they shared their particular unique community-focused aspirations. This would then be included in your Whangarei District Council Long-Term Plan 2024-2034. Communities have been swamped by unprecedented intensification, scale and density of social housing developments. Residents and ratepayers' voices have been ignored. Leadership is much about listening as it is about telling. Affected communities remain silent and ill-informed as KO machinery rolls out and Whangarei District Council bureaucracy passes on the responsibility from one email address to another, don't they, Don? Producing a collective housing strategy would ensure family-friendly social housing environments with affected communities' focused needs already there, identified, realised and supported substantially through the Whangarei District Council Long-Term Plan 2024-2024. Finally, this would result in clear directives for everybody with the critical ability to evaluate the impact of our community on our communities and stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. And councillors, is there any questions for Veronica? No. Look, I appreciate you taking the time again. Look, sorry, Councillor Olsen, I see you there. Would you have a question?
Yes, I do, Your Worship. Thank you. Veronica, have we had any further input from Shane Retty?
Yes. So, Ms. Retty has Kensington Development Community has petitioned told all Kainga housing, further Kainga or housing in Kensington, and requesting KO to revisit their planning and designs. Council Retty meets with us tomorrow to receive our petition. We've got more than 1,000 signatures, hard copy and online about 300 or 220, I think. So Council Retty is going to take our concerns through the petition to select committee tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. Well, it's great to hear, and I'm glad to hear that our local MP is taking that on board. Again, thank you, Veronica. Thank you for taking the time to come in. It's vitally important that you have your say, and we appreciate you coming in to have your say on this. I know it affects the Kensington community and several other communities around Whangarei and Northland who are all facing the same situation, but thank you for coming in. Our next speaker is Renee. Is she here? Yes, there we go. Renee, as I've said to the other speakers, you've got 5 minutes. Take your time as you're going through. I know it's a nerve-wracking process, but you feel free to, this is a time for the council, for you to make your speech, and then the councillors to actually ask questions of you afterwards if they can.
Thank you, Vince. Slavery was first abolished in British in 1833. It wasn't until 1845 that France followed, 1865 for USA, and 1873 for the Dutch. So when New Zealand was up for grabs and trade was opening up, any intelligent being would seek a partnership with the lesser of 5 evils that were on offer, hence Te Tiriti 1840 was made. It hasn't been smooth sailing, but the past 40 years have felt like we were moving forward together. Fast forward to the pandemic emergency of 2020 and the subsequent vaccine passports, which have been the most powerful tools in removing everyone's rights and freedoms. If back then the television was not your single source of truth, you may have seen the speech of Klaus Schwab, the chairperson of the World Control Organization, of a great reset, where you will own nothing and you will be happy. I'm going to read to you a list of unalienable rights. How many of these rights were surrendered on the grounds of a false pandemic emergency? The right of life, freedom, health, and pursuit of happiness. The right to earn a living by being compensated with wages, a salary, or any trade goods in a fair exchange for one's work. Vaccine mandates. A right to travel in the ordinary course of one's life and business. Lockdowns. The right to privacy and confidentiality, free from unwarranted invasion. The mandates. the right to expose knowledge necessary to one's rights and freedoms. What's that word where you're not allowed to? I've forgotten. Conspiracy theory, propaganda, and the other word. The right to peaceful association, assembly, expression, and protest. And most importantly, the right to live in peace and to be left alone when law-abiding. We have inherited a false narrative, the greater good, that gives legitimacy to authority of the state over the individual, called the social contract theory, that individuals have consented either explicitly or tacitly to surrender some of their freedoms and submit to the authority of the ruler or magistrate in exchange for protection of their remaining rights. Do it for your grandparents. Do it for your children. That's what the pandemic treaty has done for us. But like frogs in a pot, we are in hot water. It's uncomfortable. And the pandemic treaty was the wood fueling the flames of the fire of legislation. In that pot, frogs are dying, frogs are stressed, frogs are adding fuel, and frogs are imprisoning other frogs. Some of the frogs in 2020 jumped out of the pot. Some of us said, I don't like the heat here, it's too much. In that pot of legislation, in the kitchen of the system, Admiralty law, are people who are in the pot adding to the flames. Outside of that pot, outside of that jurisdiction of Admiralty law is natural law. Those of us people that have left that pot of legislation and that heat where our freedoms were taken away are going to natural law, which is a different jurisdiction, is a different system, is a different ecosystem where we can live with the last right, which is the right to live in peace and to be left alone when law-abiding. And that's under natural law. This is my first part of the speech, which is 5 minutes, which is not going to be... So that's just the introduction. The second part of the speech is explaining how we got here, how the state, the government, the Crown have coerced us, have lied to us, have deceived us into being born into the system. But there is a way out of the system, just like in the Matrix, where we were offered a blue or a red pill. The red pill is the system, and the blue pill is the way out. And natural law and the principles of equity is the way out of the system. So, in this war that we are in, of legislation, where you see people suffering, people dying, people struggling, do we want to add to the flames, or do we want to remove ourselves from the system altogether? We're all a part of the system, but we all have a responsibility. Do you want to be adding the flames, or do you want to be creating a new system, a better system apart from the system? Second part to that, the answer to that will be coming in the next round. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you for your time. Councillors, is there any questions for Renee? There's no questions. Renee, look, I appreciate you coming in time. You've done the 5 minutes here. I'm taking that's a part 1 of a part 2, or yeah. But thank you for coming in. We appreciate it. This is your time. So yeah, thank you again.
Thank you, everyone.
Councillors, we now move on to our first report that we've had from our police since my term, which is, I really appreciate that. Maria, the floor is yours. As always, you've got the realms here of the councillors and listening, and I do need to highlight that just so that the councillors understand these meetings are live streamed, so don't take offence by that, Maria. It's not against you. It's more about to make sure that everyone is out there hearing everything. So look, talk to us, Maria, and we'll allow the councillors to ask questions afterwards. Need the microphone on. That's it.
Morena koutou, ko Marie Nordstrom, tuko ingoa. Thank you, Your Worship the Mayor, for the invitation to come here. I know it's been a long time coming, but very pleased to be here today. So, and lovely to meet you all. Yeah, it's just been over 8 months now since I started here and as the area commander for Whangarei and Kaipara. I came in at a time of great tragedy on the back of the Abbey Caves event, and also some pretty significant crime events within the town with a homicide, aggravated robbery at Michael Hill Jeweller. So for me, coming in as a new leader, I got to watch my people, and I was very, very proud of the people that work in the police service here. I saw the commitment, I saw the professionalism, and I saw strength and also empathy through that period of time. So it was a very good time to come in respect of that, to witness that. A bit about me. I have been in police now for over 30 years. I've actually lost count, to be honest, and my career's predominantly been in the Kaipara district, actually at Dargaville, frontline for many years, and progressed through the leadership roles following that. In 2013, I took up the Northern District Manager role for family violence and victims, which was an inaugural role that was brought into play as part of Police's Prevention First strategy, and it was putting victims at the heart of what we do. So it was a bit of a mindset change for police back then, and had to lead that out for Northern District. That led me into a role at Police National Headquarters in 2019 as the Victim Partnerships Manager at a national level. 3.5 years there before I've come full circle back to Whangarei. So, and very privileged now to be in the area commander role, which is a people leader role for the area. The staff that I look after are your frontline, your response teams here in Whangarei, as well as in Dargaville, Mangataroto, Ruakaka, Onerahi, Hikarangi, Kamo. So I have a very large team. We also have prevention staff, which across youth services and youth services community roles as well within that team. So over 100 staff that we look after here within the area. So as far as the district goes, we, as you know, we have not had our district commander. As soon as I walked in the door, our district commander left for Canterbury. So we have interviews underway actually tomorrow for an appointment for district commander. So that is upcoming announcement for us, which would be great to see. I'm hoping this is hitting the mark. What have I been doing since I've been here? So I've really been looking at how police are operating internally. I've spent a lot of time looking at our capability, our capacity, the crime demand that's coming in for our service to respond to. And a couple of pieces of work that I've had underway is around our front counters. So I heard from the community pretty quickly from the Kaipara in particular around their dismay at the Dargaville front counter being closed. And I'm happy to announce that in the next month or so we will be having a new employee starting at Dargaville. So those front counters will reopen in Dargaville, which is exciting news. Whangarei, I'm also looking at the Whangarei front counter, but I'm aware that the hours are not suiting our community, and in fact they are actually impacting our people as well. being only open Monday to Friday 8 till 4. So there's a piece of work going on underway at the moment how we can resource that and open our counters for longer hours. I'm appreciative that the Whangarei counter in particular services not just Whangarei. We are quite often servicing other members of the community from the rest of the district, and it's a busy counter, so we're trying very hard to get those doors open longer and in the weekends. So I'll keep you updated on that. I've had, in respect of the work I've been doing internally, I've worked hard to establish the area leadership team, and I'm happy to announce that I've just appointed a new area prevention manager, and that's Senior Sergeant Dave Wilkinson, who's very much homebred, and so he's just come onto the team in January, working alongside a response manager, Senior Sergeant Christian Stanton, for our Whangarei teams, and Steve Dixon for our rural response, north, east, and over in Kaipara as well. So the leadership team is really formed up now, and it's really good news from my perspective to get that established. As part of that, we also contribute to Northland 2028, which is a 5-year work program, which is looking at our culture, our leadership, and our deployment across the district. So that's our work plan. So our leadership team here in the area, we're looking at our tactical responses and our operating model that will contribute to the 5-year plan that we've put in place, that commenced in July last year. So that's the biggest strategic piece of work that's underway. Very much that piece of work is about building an ideal police force for our district here, developing our leaders, and ensuring our service delivery is the best it can be. We know that change will take time as we start to do that capability build for our district. When it comes to our police demand, police have over the years faced many challenges with the increased social harm that draws our force people to respond to. And with the change of government at the moment, obviously that's being looked at around how we can get back to our policing business, and I know that will be a challenge, and we're just waiting to hear our direction from our executive on that. And I can tell you we do respond to high levels of demand around family harm, approximately about 16 calls a day, just here in Whangarei and Kaipara alone for our people. And we'll not stop responding to those calls for service. I just want to reiterate that. And the other calls for service, obviously, that we assist with is mental health demand as well. So that does take up a lot of our police officers' time at the moment. When it comes to actual crime, we're actually seeing, we're not seeing an increase in crime. And it would be good to look into this further. We're actually expected levels of crime within our area. One area I'd like to explore is the reporting of crime. Obviously, over the years, that has changed from walking in the doors to the front counter of a police station to report, or picking up the phone, to a whole lot of avenues of ways of reporting to police now through social media, through the internet. And of course, police have had to step up different systems to be able to manage those different ways of reporting and ensuring that we get that information. As far as crime level goes, it's definitely at expected levels. as far as forming relationships and partnerships with our communities, very hot on that. I am a believer in solving complex issues that face our communities is an opportunity for us to be partnering with our communities, local body, and looking at how we address issues from a wider perspective, working together. We all have a part to play in some of those complex issues, but I think working together and sharing information and being able to address those issues together is a winner. And that has worked when I've worked in complex areas such as family harm and family violence, and I've seen outstanding results from doing that. So exploring that obviously with the worship the Mayor, and working closely now with Dom from the council around how we partner and work together around some of the community issues that you're facing here within Whangarei.
Maria, do you want the councillors to be able to ask some questions at this point?
Yeah, probably. I'm just about to sum up. That's just a bit of a high level sort of view of the things that have been going on for me only in a short time, in the 8 months. I'm excited about what's next as I start to form the relationships with the key stakeholders for police. But yeah, absolutely. Look forward to hearing from the councillors on what they would like to hear from police as well, if I come back to this forum again, and yeah, how we can help you.
Oh, I've got Councillor Harding first. She'd like to ask a question.
I te koromata tēnā koe, after saying I wouldn't speak a lot today. Mihi atu ki a koe, Area Commander Ria. Thank you for sharing your kōrero around your observations internally of what's happening within the organisation. I just wanted to ask, in terms of that 5-year plan, cultural leadership deployment, is there an inclusion of lifting the organisational cultural capacity in terms of engaging and working with Māori and that kind of understanding of tikanga and those kind of components? Just wanted to ask what that looked like. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Yeah, we have both across the district at a district commander level as well as an area commander level. We work very, very closely with iwi hapu. We have bi-monthly meetings with our advisory group, both in Kaipara and here in Whangarei. That partnership is key to our policing culture, way of working. And yeah, absolutely, I see it as part of our culture plan moving forward to improve our cultural competence as an organisation and our people as well. But yeah, absolutely.
And now we go to Councillor Peters.
Oh, thank you so much for coming and talking to us. It's really helpful. I've got 2 questions around partnership that you talk about. One is about beat cops downtown. Obviously, council provides some beat cover, and we don't have as much money this next year, so we're sort of reducing that. The first question is, do you have a plan to meet that gap? And also, just hearing from the business community, actually seeing police around is really good and supportive in the downtown.
Kia ora, Councillor Peters. Absolutely, visibility is critical for police in the CBD, but also in other areas where the demand is at that time. And we actually had an operation over summer, in particular in December. You would have seen a lot of beat cops around in the CBD as well as Okara, because we knew that was our busy time. And my intention and we have to work through this through our tactical plans, obviously, is to increase that visibility.
Cool.
But we need to work through how we manage that with our demand and our priorities, and treasure the partnership with our community patrols and City Safe as well. Obviously, their role is much rounder than a policing role, but treasure that relationship that we have, the information flow that we have, and understanding of what's happening with our communities from a different perspective as well. I think that's vital. So, yeah, would really want it to work on for us to be able to improve our beat constable, I guess is the common word for.
So the second question, and I was really pleased to hear that you're working with Dom, is around homeless people in the night and responding to incidents. If we have wraparound around homeless people, what's your capacity, and have you set up a line where whoever's providing wraparound for homeless people during the night has a direct contact with the police in case of damping down things?
Of course, our responses are usually through the 111 process in the evenings, more than anything. So obviously we're most likely responding to crime type events, which might involve homeless people. So our people are responding to that call for service and making a decision from there. I think we have got an area of improvement around how we might work through that referral or the awhi
Cool.
that we might actually provide. And I think this work with Dom and now that we have Senior Sergeant Wilkinson as the Area Prevention Manager as a key connect to look at what the awhi process, we call it awhi. And we actually have a set process within police around how we can refer to certain agencies, and we can do that at a local level. And I think we can do a lot more work there to improve that.
Thank you. And I think it's more about spin up than crime, when people spin out during the night. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Peters. Now, Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, welcome. I'm not sure whether to call you Commander or Maria. Maria, anyway, welcome. Good to see you here. Thanks for spending your time, giving us some time today. I must say I had to make a decision this morning whether to bring my old ute into work or not, but I checked the warrant of fitness and decided it probably wasn't the day to bring it in. So thanks for that. I've got a couple of questions for you, and the first one is acknowledging that you're new but you've come back to your roots. How do we improve communications between this forum and the police? Given that all the councillors here have strong local connections and will maybe be picking up information that just doesn't cross your desk. So how do we improve that flow of communication?
Kia ora. That's a good question. And whatever works best, I guess, from your perspective, how that might come through myself initially, if it's obviously not so urgent matter, but it's an emerging risk that's coming in your community, because I have amazing leaders out there that work in certain areas, and I know that you're from Whangarei Head, so I have an amazing sergeant who looks after Kamo Whangarei Head's area, and 2 community constables out there that are very dedicated to their community. So if probably the emerging risks could come to myself, so that we can then discuss how we best might work through those, and who a key connect would be to work through those issues, would probably be the best option.
Okay, thank you. Another question, if I may. So thank you for that. And I've got to say that the feedback from the local community about the local cops is very positive. I think we love our local cops out there. So please pass that on to them. The second question really was, I was just surprised to hear you say that crime levels are not increasing and they're at a level that you expected to see. And again, the feedback on the ground is that that's not what is the lived experience, certainly in the rural coastal area that I represent. And I wonder, given that we've got great cops out our way, what's the plan for having a greater presence in the Whangarei Heads, particularly because a lot of this is about perception, I believe, that crime is rising, but that's certainly perception on the ground. So how can we change that perception, and how can we have a greater presence of police in the Heads?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the data that I'm looking at and reviewing are obviously coming in new, and I'm comparing the 3-year average. And I'm keeping an eye on demand constantly to see what's spiking, what's reducing. And that's what I'm comparing on. Of course, this is reported crime. So what I'm also aware of is that we have a lot of unreported crime. And that's where I rely on the community. We police through our communities. So how do we get that information flow coming through to us so that we understand? And I think we've just talked about that in the previous question around those emerging issues and how that might be then addressed and understood, and then it may involve a more collaborative type approach to the issue that's arising. So I think there's real opportunity there. And I've seen, having experienced doing family violence death reviews through that piece of work, it became clear to me that we have a lot of unreported crime. Because we would do extensive investigation with our communities around this particular event. And there was a lot of knowledge within the community around what had been going on in a certain location, yet it wasn't known to police. So I think that's the beauty of everything, and the answer for it is how we can.
So thank you. I think that was really linked to my first question, because I think we are probably, as local elected members, probably receiving lots of incoming that just you wouldn't see. And it's about making that connection, because I believe there is a lot of unreported crime out there. And so if we can work on those lines of communication, that would really help. So thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Councillor Benny, now I'm sure you have had experience with Councillor Benny before, so Councillor Benny.
Yes, be kind, Councillor Benny.
Kia ora. Firstly, it's taken 8 months to get you here, so you're not getting away too quickly. So, and I've got to acknowledge the young fellow you brought with you, Dean Robinson. Thank you for coming, Dean, with you. So appreciate your efforts. One of the things you touched on, capacity and response, and I'm just interested in that. And I did mention to you that I'd be questioning on this. And that one of the issues coming to councils all the time, and especially probably the city councillors more than the rural councillors, is this issue with these young fellas on these trail bikes, motorbikes, doing wheel stands all over the place, up and down the streets, with little or no repercussions. Recently, last week, His Worship and I get the City Safe report on a Monday morning, and there was 4 young fellas who I happened to have come across on the shared path, who came down on their doing wheel stands right through on trail bikes, went right through the central city, up Bank Street. City Safe dealt with them at that time and contacted police, and they were told by the police officer on the ground that the superiors had said they were not to engage with them, that the police were not allowed to engage with them. I'm just wanting your response to that, and hopefully some reassurance that that is not the case.
Kia ora, morena, Councillor Benny. Yes, I just want to also mention Inspector Dean Robinson's here. He's the District Prevention Manager, and he's got an interest in the conversations that have been had this morning. Obviously, Dean has portfolios of road policing, family harm, intelligence, and our deployment. So he has a large work group and interest in obviously these conversations. So your first question is around the bikes.
Yeah, the police response to that.
So obviously we're very much driven by what's reported through either our 111 channels or 105 channels. So obviously with the bikes, it's a snapshot in time, and we get the report, and our people respond to those calls for service. No two ways about that. They're quite difficult crimes to attend because they're gone, or we don't know who they were. The descriptor's not going to give us enough information. But I can tell you that we do have people with a vested interest within our organisation around those riders on those bikes for many reasons, other than just the fact that they're riding on bikes in town. I can't answer why our City Safe staff were told that we weren't allowed to stop, because that's certainly not the messaging that's coming down from us as a leadership group or down to our people. So yeah, that's news to my ears around that commentary. The City Safe information that we get through the CCTV information goes through into our tactical response teams, so that we are looking at that as if we can make any lines of inquiry to any offences that have been reported through that technology. So yeah.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. And that was the response I was expecting. Just some reassurance, really, that the police do take this seriously, because that's the visibility that the public, members of the public, particularly, contact us. And this is not a council matter. This is a police matter. And it'd be nice to see the police. And I know that recently, some of the in the last few days, some of the serious crime that's happening around the area, you have got your work cut out, and it's not a priority. But I think the people would like to see that visibility. So thank you for coming in, and thank you, Dean.
You're welcome.
And Councillor Olsen, you've got a question.
Yes, I do have a question, Your Worship. Yes, I do. Thank you for your presentation, Maria. So I'm an urban councillor. I represent a wide area, and I've been quite involved with the Kensington residents and the Whangarei meetings. And through that, I was requested if I could get information and statistics on crime, whether there's been an increase in crime since Whangarei has been up and running. I put that request in on the 8th of February. I still don't have a reply. I still have no numbers to feed back to my community. So is there any way that can be, and I'm not sure if this is the forum that I should have brought this up, but you're here now and I'm asking, is there any way that I can gain that information, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the OIA process is there for us to use and provide information and data that's required. So yeah, so I'm not sure where that's at as far as that request goes. But again, if you want to send those requests through myself, would probably be the best option to be able to address those issues.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Look, Maria, you've had the councillors, you've done the grilling, you've done well. The big thing is I think everyone does appreciate the police when they're out there doing their job. It's not an easy job to do, and I don't think anyone takes their job lightly. So we really appreciate both you and Dean being in here, listening to us, and answering the questions that we have. So thank you very much again. And just for the formalities, councillors, can I have a mover and a seconder for the police? Councillor Harding and Councillor Peters. All those in favour? I don't think anyone disagrees, so it's okay. Thank you again, Maria, and thank you again, guys, for coming in. Appreciate your time. Councillor, so moving on to our business as we go through today, we've got item 6.1, which is the moving of the previous minutes of the 21st of December. We're also going to include the confidential in there. Councillor Peters, are you moving that? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Rooker will second that. Any discussion at all? Councillor Pulse.
Yes, Your Worship, just a comment on this meeting. As you mentioned in the minutes there, I was actually in Sydney, but I was on Teams. It's really, really frustrating because you can't hear your public gallery speak at all. You know, so we're going to have public people speaking. Surely we must be able to pick it up with this nicely flash building and flash electronics, we should be able to get the voice out there. So it's pretty hard to listen to a conversation when you can't hear it. Thank you.
And I do know the team have improved when you're going on Teams now, so we'll be able to see they've made quite a few improvements to this building and also to the sound system. So I'll get a report back from that later on this afternoon. Councillor Peters?
Yes, just adding to Councillor Hull's, people in the gallery are finding it hard too. So when that improvement is, some councillors' voices are too.
It's actually been done, Councillor. You'll see the 4 speakers which have been added up the top there.
Yay! Thank you.
Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 7.1 on page 23. And I have made sure that the items are matching with the paper and electronic versions. Councillors, I'll move this and I'll read that out so that people can, and Councillor Peters, you're taking the seconding that, so I'll read it out so that everyone's got here. Actually, yeah, I had that. That the council proceeds with the long-term plan 2024 to 34 process on the basis that the consultation document will not be audited, and 2, notes that the source documentation contributing to the consultation documents will, where possible, be reviewed by the auditors prior to the consultation document being adopted. Councillors, you understand the process that the staff have had to go through. It's well documented in there. It explains it quite fully. It's been hard for the staff, and we've been given the allowances from the central government to actually be able to do what we're doing, which is great. And again, it's just about trying to make those efficiencies and again, be able to get a document out to the public for consultation. Councillor Peters, you've got to...
Oh, just a thank you to the staff for working over Christmas so hard and, under a great deal of strain.
Councillor Hulse?
Your Worship, I can understand why there's agenda items here, but it's really, really frustrating when you see the Auckland Council's actually got these out already. The whole plan's out for consultation. So why are we going through all the hoops and being pushed back like this? So surely if it's good enough for the biggest city in the country to have their consultation document already out, surely we should be able to follow that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate your comment there, Councillor Hulse. If you note that both Kaipara and Far North are not doing a 3-year long-term plan like we are. They're actually doing a short plan, an annual plan. Alan, do you want to add anything to this?
Just to note that the key difference between Auckland and ourselves is that they have water care doing this stuff, so all the water stuff was already contained. It was easy to add it back in again. It's much harder for us because we had to redo the complete financial model. There's a different set of dynamics there too compared to them.
And I think some Western highlighted to me that there's also a significant amount of staff difference between Auckland and Whangarei, but that's not encouraging us to have more staff.
I didn't bring it up just to get excuses. What I brought it up for was this system in place. We seem to be erring on the caution thing all the time. Like our public deserve the same rights as people in the city, in the big city. But the process just seems to be dragging and dragging. There's a number of councils said right from the start, why don't we do a mock one with the 3 water still in? Because I can remember having that conversation. Thank you.
Yep, and Councillor, you're absolutely right. We did have that conversation, and we were specifically told by central government at the time we could not do that. So that's why, and yes, you are right. Our council is risk averse. It's very much so like that. That is the nature of councils. They've gone through that process. Councillor, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? All those in favour? Any opposed? Councillor Hulse, would you like that recorded? Okay. Carried. Councillors, we're going to move on to item 7.2 on page 29.
Your Worship, declare an interest. Declare an interest
Hulse,
as current chairman of the committee.
Yep, I'll acknowledge your interest there. It's not a conflict, but it is an interest in pointing out there. And Councillor Olsen, you're acknowledging that as well?
Yeah.
And along with Councillor Connor. Okay. Councillors, I'll move the recommendation that's there. And do I have a seconder for that? Yep, Councillor Jovic. I'll just read that out just for those in the line. That council, 1, notes the report. 2, amends the Airport Noise Management Committee term of reference to provide for 6 monthly meetings for a period of no less than 5 years after Nest relocates to the airport. 3, accepts the resignation of Jim Fernie and requests the chairman of the Airport Noise Management Committee write a letter of appreciation to Mr. Fernie. And 4, notes the recommended community representatives member will be brought to a future council meeting for appointment. Councillors, you've seen this. I don't need to really go on too much about it. The information is all there. It's disappointing when someone resigns. However, that's their reasons. We must accept that that is what it is. This is about trying to get through the process of making sure that the Noise Management Committee stays in place and it still produces a job. I do note that the recommendation there says for 6 month meetings. I do believe there is within the terms of reference that if an issue was to come up, then another meeting would be able to have. And I've got nodding from Dominic Cooler there, who's he's online at the moment, so he's nodding to say yes, that is 100% correct. So if an issue does come up, the meeting can be had. So it's not taking away from this. This is more about making sure that there is a minimum of at least 2 meetings a year. So that's the main thing. Councillors, any other discussion? Councillor Harding.
Tēnā koe te koromato. Just, sorry, so the previous status of meetings, were they monthly or something? I know we agreed that 6 monthly, going into the next term, but what was the previous status quo? Arohomai? Kia ora.
Dominic, are you able to answer that? Yeah. So this is more just a formality to make sure there is at least 2 meetings a year, rather than there being no meetings at all.
Sorry, but what are they currently doing?
As required.
As required.
Okay. No other questions? No other statements? No. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 7.2, 7.3, page 37. And councillors, I'll move this again, and Councillor Connop's going to second it. So I'm just going to read it, and thank you, staff, for coming out here doing this. So the motion is that the council notes that while the animal shelter remains within the overall contract budget, additional works scope for recommended to future-proof the building and reduce whole-of-life costs. 2, notes the additional work scope can be funded from the existing project budget. And 3, approves a $151,336.28 increase to the contract awarded value for contract 22004 for the construction of the new animal shelter from $5,325,795.64 to $5,477 and $131.92. Thank you, Councillor Connaught, for seconding that. Councillors, this is not. I think the biggest confusion about this is we actually approved a budget for this project of $6,710,000 and sorry, $6,710,884 for this project. We actually had a budget for that. The contract came in under that after the councillors asked them to find savings. They found savings that came in under that. The work that's been asked of them to do, and I liken this to when you're building a house, it is cheaper to put the wiring in when you're constructing than to do it afterwards. And that is the situation here. We're dealing about security systems and IT systems. As someone who has done that in the past, it does create more cost, more time, more energy to do something after than before. This also allows the staff to actually align the systems with council's system in here, and also allows the monitoring of it. So the values that are there are all within the contract value. So all within the budgeted value, and hence the reason for the slight increase. And because council have approved the original contract, this increase or this variation needs to be done back through council again. So that is the whole process of this, and that's the reason why it's coming to you. It is not extending the actual budget which has been approved by council. Councillor Jovich.
Like a speed limit, a budget is something that we don't have to hit every time.
Absolutely.
I think I won't be voting for this. I think in terms of some of the variation, I understand some of the stuff is credible, but some of this should have been done front up in terms of some of it and scoping, and we just see this endlessly coming through all the time. So for that purpose, I won't be voting for this.
Councillors, any other discussions? No, Councillor Hulse?
Yeah, I'm a bit confused by some of the stuff in the agenda. It said in 1 and 2 that we had a budget to do this, and blah blah blah. And 2 notes the additional scope work can be funded from the existing project budget. And the agenda now, as you've just moved, it says we've got to approve because of the variation. Well, in any building, it's within budget. It's generally decided on site whether you're going to do it or not, as long as it doesn't inflate the price. So I can't see the relevance of why this is even in front of us.
And Councillor Hulse, and I'll just answer that just because it's a good question, and it's what I just highlighted before, is because council actually approved the contract and the contract value. And because council actually approved the contract value, we actually have to have a motion which allows us to change and alter the price in the computer system. They cannot spend the money unless it's actually altered in the computer system, which, as I said, this is a very technical part of it. However, it just, because we've approved the contract, it's got to be also, the variation's got to be approved by council as well.
Yes. We had a huge debate about the building of this dog pound, and it started off at 8 point something million. We got it down to 5.4 or something. I think that is a signed price. We made it really quite clear at that stage that we wouldn't be giving any more money towards this project, and I'm like Councillor Yost, I will not be supporting it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Hulse. Councillor Olsen.
I understand what you're saying, Worship, but so if we don't approve this variation of 151,000, what happens?
Dom, I will hand that to you, or is it one of your team which starts that?
So the ICT changes some of them were missed during design, but some changes have happened because our specifications are now matching in with the Civic Centre building. Though, like the Mayor said, we need to add these changes in now. If we do not, we can deliver a building. It won't meet our requirements and we'll have to retrofit later. Some other items from the variations are things that were missed because we tendered on for consent drawings. So there's mentioned in the agenda that the finished floor level was a mistake. It needed to be raised, and concrete and steel is very expensive. So when you raise the finished floor level on a concrete slab, you actually need to add more steel and more concrete. So that was a large increase in cost, and that was where quite a significant amount of the variations have come from so far. Yeah, sorry, was there any other detail I should add? No, thank you.
Councillor Olsen, that does answer your question. Okay, Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Your Worship. I hate variations. On the way into work this morning, and I consider this work, I listened to the radio and they were after 9 o'clock going to be playing all the tunes that came out in 1984.
I heard that.
Yeah, instead I'm sitting here listening to this. But I can tell the young people in this room, that we knew how to have fun in 1984. I was 17 going on 18. So 40 years later, here we are, talking about the dog pound and the animal shelter. I agree with Councillor Hulse. There was a huge debate at the time. The reason that the animal shelter was required was because the previous animal shelter was no longer fit for purpose. It had not been designed to deal with the growth in the city and the complexity of animals that now visit our animal shelter. Indeed, it used to be called the dog pound. Now they get things like rabbits and llamas and all that sort of carry on. So here we are trying to set the thing up. We saved a significant amount of money. A group of us were not happy with the original price, as Councillor Hulse has said. And so we kicked up Bobsy Die and we got a new contract price. It was done off the price was done off the tender documents or the spec sheet, as we have heard. And so these things have been missed. So the question for me is, if we deny this increase in the contract value, it's clearly, I'd like a bit more information around the cost of the ongoing, it says a whole of life cost will be increased, and the actual hassle of retrofitting and potentially putting future generations in a situation that we were in when we had to make this decision back in 2023. I guess I'd also note that this building has happened during a time some of the highest inflation in building costs. For it to be within its budget, its project costs, the total budget for the project, I think taking that into account is a testament to the good work of the people who have built the thing, so thank you. But yeah, maybe some questions around the ongoing whole of life costs and how much. What we're trying to do here is spend capital to reduce operating costs going into the future. Those operating costs come out of our rates. Thank you.
Dominic, is that something that you'd be able to answer?
So just seems to me a bit of what we're hearing is a stitch in time, save 9 type situation. That's what?
Keep going.
Anyway, I'll have to think some more and see how the debate goes. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just sort of thinking outside the square a wee bit, rather than moving money inside the budget by increasing the spend. What is the cost of, I presume it's going to be landscaped in the fancy car park in Tarseel, and just wondering whether we reduce the outlay in beautifying and flash car parks and put that into the wiring? Just a question.
Yep. I believe it's a question that the team can actually already answer because they probably already have gone through that process. Biona?
So we can certainly do less gardening. There's not really a garden planned. We are keeping the main car park as gravel, just topping up the gravel that's existing there. The from the road, the driveway up into the car park area, we are sealing that because it is quite steep. So that's not great for gravel long term. The water runs down, it ruts it out. And there is one accessible parking area very close to the main building that is going to be sealed. But the main car park overall is entirely gravel. But we could potentially not top up the gravel. We could do less maintenance on the outside. We are planning to plant the bank for less maintenance long term because long-term weeds will just grow on the bank if we don't plant it up. But there are definitely options of grounds and things like that we don't have to do.
I think what Councillor Reid was getting to is doing those changes, is that going to equate to the 151,000?
I don't see us saving 151,000 in those changes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just working on the theory that we don't want it to be an attractive place to visit.
No, we understand your point there, Councillor Reid. Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just picking up on the comment from Dom about the wiring and the cameras, and just to ask the question, why are these necessary at all? Is this a safety issue, or is this providing some TV for the dogs and the llamas? I'm not quite sure why we need them.
Through the chair, it's both. So security cameras is for both security of the people working in the environment, potential dog bites, etc., but also to safeguard against people breaking into the shelter and stealing their dogs out of it, as has happened with the current one. The wiring update is internally, obviously facilitates the camera feed, but also we're talking about future-proofing that building in line with what our learnings were for this building, so that the team can properly link into our systems. That currently is a little bit problematic.
If I may just, Your Worship, just come to that. So I appreciate the desire to do it once and do it right and not to retrofit. I think that's all very plausible and I support. I just struggle to see why we need the highest rating of IT cabling, as an example, as given that Dom's raised it, and the highest rating of cameras. I mean, clearly our staff security is paramount, and I wouldn't disagree with that at all. We need to make sure that they're safe. But I struggle to understand why we'd need the building at a level, say, of the kind of IT infrastructure we've got in this building, for example. So, I struggle a wee bit with this, but I sympathise certainly with the staff in terms of it's very difficult to nail an absolute price. So I get that. So I'm not being critical. I'm just really conscious that this is very difficult timing for us.
And I appreciate that comment. And I probably can answer the IT side of things quite quickly and simply. If you go back, the original classification on wiring for inside IT, inside buildings, was actually Cat 3. Then it became Cat 5, Cat 5e, Cat 6, and now we're up to the next one. It's all because the cables degrade over time. So it's about making sure that the right style cable actually gets put in so it has a longer life. Now, that's problem. It's called Cat 5e. So when I first started going out in IT, this is what it was. You're dealing with cablings as a change, and they do degrade. There's a lot of people today who 10 years ago put in Cat 5, and now they're having to replace all that cabling because it just didn't survive the life, and it was actually damaged. It's actually getting damaged. So that sort of thing needs to be happening. Now, I know Eleanor's also got some comments to add to this as well.
Thank you, Worship. I'm not going to speak to whether work should be done or not. The team can do that themselves. What I want to make really clear is that they already have the approved budget from you to do this work. What they're saying is, let's find the most efficient and cheapest way of doing the work. There's two ways of doing it. One, extend the current contract, 150k, which requires your approval because of the total contract value. under delegated authority, which we normally do, puts above a certain limit, the top up has to be approved by you. That's the first way of doing the work. The second way is to do it outside that contract by somebody else, which costs $300,000. So if the work is done, what they come back to you is the cheapest way of doing it. If you ask us to be more efficient, here's a way we're doing exactly that. So I'll leave the issue of whether it should be done or not, but if we are doing the work, this is the best way of doing it.
Thank you, Alan. Councillor Benny.
And I think that's a really good explanation too, because this whole topic has caused a fair bit of angst amongst councillors right from day one under a previous regime. And while I do have my concerns with the contract variation, I accept what the staff have said. Other than things like extra fencing at the property boundary and stainless steel shelving within the walk-in freezer, to me, the boundary area is exactly the same as it was on day one, and there's no explanation of that. And I'm not seeking an explanation of that because those are reasonably minor. But I think what the council laws are trying to signal is that we have been given some pretty strict instructions on money is tight, and we're trying to tighten up on a lot of things. We'd rather work with staff than against staff, and I see this working against us. I just want to thank Dom and Raina and Vanessa as well for the process that we've been through with this, because this has been a nightmare from day one. This animal shelter. I look forward to getting it done. I will support it, but I think the council laws, or if I can sum up the feeling that I believe, are acknowledging that we need to save some money. We've got to start cutting some stuff out, and we need to start getting stuff right at day one rather than halfway through. So thank you.
Points taken. Councillor Peters.
I support it, and it's because it's get it done right, and right at the beginning. And I think that technology, like that you're getting, actually saves staff time and makes people safe, and possibly yes, it affects overheads and decreases overheads.
Councillor Olsen, have you got a question or a statement? Or
Why do you always ask me, do I have a question? I do have a question. Right, so I just really, I want clarity. So initially when this went out and the contract was awarded, was this particular issue within the contract? It was within the contract, or was it not there at the very beginning?
Through the chair, is that for the ICT, the cameras specifically? So there were cameras included. We've learned a lot in this building, and we've added some more cameras, not heaps, but a couple more from the learnings. We've added some additional duress alarms. We've changed the security system that we use in this building, which is, I think it's outlined in the agenda about the operational savings there. So there has been some things changed. It was designed a few years ago now. I'm not technical on ICT, sorry. But I've had the experts tell me that this is what we need to do to make it work for us.
Thank you, I appreciate that. But is this just another example of things not being done correctly right at the get-go? And here we come again with a variation in a contract.
Before Jim answers, Councillor, I can definitely say no. Technology has changed immensely in the last 2 years, and I will be honest about that. It has changed immensely. It is so hard for a lot of the contractors trying to keep up. Jim, you might want to add more to that.
Oh, through the chair, pretty much what you said. I think that, as has been described by the team, we're always looking to tender things out early in the process and get contractual involvement. There's also, from the time where you have a scope, there are information changes, and in this case, particularly in the ICT space, you need to allow for that. So one always wants to get the scope into a good space and get a price that's relevant. And I think it's really important that we continue to get our business cases really well defined so that we're really clear about the benefits that we want to achieve. But there's probably the time element is the thing that results in some changes in scope.
Councillor Harding.
E te kora matua, tēnā koe. Just a tautoko, the kōrero from other, and I appreciate, Alan, your statement around, the budget was there in the beginning. You've already signed off on it. It's just a reminder that, but I also tautoko Councillor Jovich around, it's not a target, it's not the speed limit where you're, 100 and and you can go 80 or you can go 120. And then backing Councillor Benny around, you know, we've been asked, and you've asked us, you know, kind of commanded that we look at what we're doing in terms of our spend and you guys and your levels of service. So I think just being mindful that if this proceeds, it's within your budget spend, can you keep looking at what is you know, we don't need the 5-star anything. You know, it's an animal shelter. I mean, you know, I've got a dog, I've got a pet, love him dearly. You know, but I think we just need to be mindful of what are our savings. If not here, then where else? Thank you.
Okay. Dom, do you want to answer anything on that? Because that was more. No, it's okay. Councillor Reid, you're gonna.
Yeah, just a question, Your
Yep.
Worship. What are we going to do about the wiring when we get up to Cat 19 and we've only got Cat 7?
Yeah, it's a philosophical question. I think we need to just be well aware that we have at the moment, which is the requirements. This is, as I said, the ITC things have changed over the last 2 years, and it has changed quite significantly. Councillor Mackenzie.
Your Worship, could I move an amendment, if possible?
And your amendment is?
The same as the recommendation, just with a fourth point that says staff to investigate possibility of any savings elsewhere to offset the increase in contract price.
So what you're effectively asking is for the staff to continually look for savings.
Exactly, and I think on that basis, happy to support the motion.
Okay, Councillor Harding, you're seconding that, are you? Okay, it's spoken to it, so she can't second it. Sorry. Yes, Councillor Olsen, you've only asked questions. Are you wanting to second that? Yes, I am. Okay. Would you like to speak to that, or you're right?
Ultimately, I think it makes sense in the long term to pay $150,000 instead of $300,000 after the fact in the new contract. But I do acknowledge that we are really feeling a financial pinch, and we are being asked to look for savings, although it's within the budget. It is pertinent for us to ask for staff to continue to look for savings to offset any increase in costs in any projects.
Okay. Councillor Mackenzie, I'm just going to make sure that Carolyn's got that written down correctly, okay, before we proceed any further. Carolyn, have you got the...
Request staff to investigate the possibility of any savings.
Any future savings. Yeah.
To offset the increase in contract price.
Okay. Jim.
Just through the chair, just clarifying. So we're looking for specifically savings within this project, both capital and operational.
I would have thought capital, given this is a capital increase that you're talking about. So, you know, akin to what Simon Reid, Councillor Reid mentioned with the landscaping, for example, if there are any areas where you could make savings, then take them to offset the costs.
Kia ora. I think it was just in the wording of the motion that it doesn't say specifically the project.
So we probably should say within the contract rather than the project.
Sure.
Yep.
Happy with that. Project's okay.
Project's okay?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So yeah, your contract, you've got contract in there and you haven't you? Yeah. So you just want to read the amendment again just to make sure everyone understands it.
Request staff to investigate the possibility of any future savings to offset increases in contract price.
I think so. The reason that we're suggesting project rather than contract and savings is that not that we would do this, but potentially you could reduce the contract, but you'd spend it elsewhere via a separate contract. That's not the intent of what you're looking at. What you want us to do is to look at the whole project, find some savings to offset the increase in costs. So,
and Councillor Mackenzie, I need to make sure that's the intent of the motion. Yep. And Councillor Olsen, you're still happy with that? Okay.
So that's project.
Project, yeah. Sorry, councillors, motions off the fly. Sometimes we've got to make sure that the wording's clarified correctly. So I do apologise about that, but it's just to make sure things are worded correctly. I don't want a situation we have had in the past where we've then had to come back and reverse the motion and then redo the motion just because of a wording that we've got wrong. Yep.
Everybody happy with that?
Okay. So just to clarify, I moved the motion before. Councillor Connop, you seconded that. Are you happy with that amendment as well? Okay. So we could probably take that as a substantial, couldn't we?
He's moved it as an amendment.
He's moved that amendment. Yep. Okay. So we will. If there's no more discussions about the amendment, we will move the amendment. All those in favour? Sorry, was that Councillor? Division. Councillor Reid called for a division. All those in favour, please raise your right hand.
Councillors Rooker, Peters, Olsen, Mackenzie, Holmes, Harding, Cooper, Connop, Benny, and His Worship the Mayor.
Those against?
Councillors Jovich, Reid, Hulse, and Go Lightly. That's carried.
Motion is carried. That now becomes the substantial. We will now. Yep. So we'll now move the motion. Sorry. We'll now take a vote on that. All those in favour? Any opposed? And they would like to be recorded, which is Councillor Reid, Councillor Jovich, Councillor Hulse, and Councillor Go Lightly, which to record these against. That's been carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 7.4, which is on page 43. And Councillor Reid, I believe you have requested you wanted to move this.
I could well do that, Your Worship. Thank you very much.
And do remember you have to read that out. And Councillor Peters is going to second that.
Would you like that in English or gibberish? Recommendations that Whangarei District Council 1 approves the proposal to temporarily close the following roads.
Phone, Councillor.
Start again.
Again.
Sorry, what was that?
Oh, keep going.
Recommendations that Whangarei District Council 1 approves the proposal to temporarily close the following roads to ordinary traffic for the Anzac commemorations on the following date in accordance with the Transport Vehicular Traffic Road Closure Regulations 1965. Thursday the 25th April 2024, Hannah Street, from Hannah Street, Caruth Street intersection to Hannah Street, Rayburn Street intersection. Walton Street, from the Pack and Save car park to the Walton Street, Cameron Street intersection. Walton Street, Robert Street intersection, corner of Old ASB Bank and Old Army Hall. Robert Street, John Street and Robert Street, James Street intersections. Rathbone Street, Robert Street intersection on both sides of the road. Laurie Hall Lane and Laurie Hall car park area from the Rathbone Street intersection. Period of closure 4:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. Approves a proposal to temporarily close the side roads off the roads to be closed for up to 100 metres, and that is spelled incorrectly, it should be RES, from the intersection for safety purposes. Delegates to the Chair of Infrastructure Committee and General Manager of Infrastructure the power to give public notice of these proposed temporary closures, to consider any objections and to either approve, cancel or amend any or all of the temporary road closures if applicable. And if anyone does, I will be disappointed.
Well done, Councillor, in reading that out. Thank you very much. And it has been seconded by Councillor Peters. Councillor Reid, would you like to speak to that motion?
I'm out of breath.
It's okay. Councillor Connor.
Thank you. Speaking in support of it, it's the amount of people that turn out to these events are absolutely fantastic, especially throughout the district. Considering this one leads to Laurie Hall Park, and I'm raising this now so that we can get it dealt with prior, whilst it's not directly related to this, the thousands of people standing around the whole of Laurie Hall Park, including up on the sidewalks, including all around the place, can we please ensure that the whole park gets cleaned up of rubbish rather than only the in-between? Because I went there and I picked up a whole bucket, and it was directly after, and it was not left on the day. Please and thank you.
The team have noted that, and they will be looking after that in the process. Councillors, if there's no other discussions about this, Councillor Reid, would you like your right of reply?
I'm still out of breath.
Okay. As has been moved in second, all those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 7.5, which is on page 51, and I believe, Councillor Reid, you said you wanted to cover this one. Have you recovered with breath?
Oh, you've really got it in for me today, haven't you, Your Worship? Go for it.
Councillor Olsen wants to read it. Okay, Councillor Olsen, would you like to move this one then? Could you turn your microphone on?
Thank you, Your Worship. So the recommendation is that Whangarei District Council, 1, approves the temporary closure of the following roads to ordinary traffic for the NASCAR Whangarei Street Sprint 24 on the following dates in accordance with Section 3421B and Schedule 10, Clause 11 of the Local Government Act 1974. Friday the 5th of April 2024 to Monday the 8th of April 2024. Railway Road from Walton Street roundabout to the end of Railway Road at the Creative Northlands Main Shed Car Park. Woods Road from Railway Road to Albert Street. Albert Street from Walton Street past Clyde Street to Cameron Street. Cameron Street from Walton Street to Rayburn Street. Rayburn Street from Cameron Street to Rayburn Street Port Road roundabout. Hannah Street from the Walton Street and Rayburn Street. Carruth Street from Hannah Street to the alleyway behind 104 Roberts Street. Period of closure from 5 p.m. Friday the 5th of April to 6 a.m. Monday the 8th of April. 2, approves the temporary closure of the side roads off the roads to be closed for up to 100 metres from the intersection for safety purposes. And 3, delegates the Chair of Infrastructure Committee and General Manager Infrastructure to the power to give public notices to these temporary road closures.
Thank you, Councillor Olsen. It's been moved, and I believe that Councillor Reid is seconding that. Do you want to speak to that, Councillor?
Yeah, as a petrol head from way back, I really like the rev up on page 53. Apart from the financial gain that it will bring into the community, I think great, bring it on. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Olsen. And I do say this, I do know that the organisers of this have been working very closely with our team and also with the businesses. These guys have actually gone around to every single business who was affected, and I have to take my hat off to them. They've gone around to every single business, talked to every single business, and that's involved, and they've all got buy-in from all of them, which is, I take my hat off to them. That's a big obligation to actually do that, and they did that, and they're they've managed to keep the rev up going, which is well. So there's a whole pile of things in there they've actually done very, very well in doing, and Councillor Connop, you got a comment?
A question. You just said they've been around to all businesses, whereas in the document that has been provided to us, it says that this is how many they've been to. Has that been updated since? Because I know there are other businesses and groups and things within that. Yes,
Councillor. So remember, this had to be put in at least a month ahead in advance. So they, as of about 2 weeks ago, they were still talking to businesses. So every single business has been approached and has been talked to. And as we'll highlight, Councillor Holmes.
Your Worship, just a question, please, from me. So these street races in confined spaces are notoriously dangerous. And as a reformed petrol head of many years, now driving an EV and an old ute that has no warrant of fitness, I'm just concerned, are we satisfied with the track record of the organisers, their safety record? Because clearly we don't want any accidents on our streets. So what reassurance can you give me that they've got a good track record in terms of their safety?
And Councillor, all I can say to you is there is an insurance certificate there, which is quite clearly. The organisers have run events throughout New Zealand and have been running events throughout New Zealand. They actually bring their own safety team up So they run the Hampton Down races down there, and Telpo races. So they actually have been running them on proper racetracks as well as been doing street sprints around other areas. So they're actually bringing their own safety team up. That's what I do know. As for proven experience, I don't know. Team, have you had those questions? Have asked those questions of them?
That's the right one. Yes. We haven't had any thing come up saying that there have been big accidents or any bad records with them, and they are bringing up all of their own health and safety people and delegates as well for the event. We had no concerns.
What I can tell you is they run their events to the same level of high standards as Motorsport New Zealand, so it's extremely high standards. And if you've ever been to any racetracks and actually seen them racing, as I'm sure Councillor Holmes you have.
I have, and I speak from experience about being hit by a motorbike coming off a track when I was very young. So it's from some level of knowledge around how dangerous these things are. But I acknowledge the due diligence that the staff have undertaken. I'm reassured with that. Thank you.
Councillor Harding.
E te kora mātua, kia ora tātou, kia ora koutou. It looks incredibly exciting. It looks God-fearing, dangerous. But at the same time, and I apologise if I've missed it, but is there opportunity for additional parking? Because you've whacked out a whole heap of parking, to kind of get people there. Have we got alternative buses from the stadium to drop people off, or just any thoughts about public access to the area?
We are in discussions about having extra buses and things happen from outside to bring people in, just so it's a lot safer and less congested in the streets.
And I also, as I said, because they have been regularly keeping me up to date with this, because they wanted to make sure they followed the rules to the nth degree, I do know that they have also been having discussions with Kiwi Rail and the Kiwi Rail land as well. So they are literally trying to make sure parking is dealt with properly and all the team are being looked after. Thank you, Councillor Reid, for that comment. Councillor, since there's no other comments, Councillor Olsen, do you want your right of reply?
No, I think apart from the health and safety issue, and I think that's been well taken care of.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on. It's been carried, councillors. We'll move on to now 7.6, which is on page 63, and I believe Councillor Hulse has already made mention that he wants to move this one.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move. Whangarei District Council 1 approves their proposal to temporarily close the following roads to ordinary traffic for the Super Rugby Moana Pacifica versus Queensland Red on the following date in accordance with the Transport Vehicle Traffic Road Closure Regulation 1965. Saturday, the 12th of April 2024, Akara Drive from the roundabout at Akara Drive and Pauini Ave to the roundabout at Akara Drive and Port Road. Period of close is 3 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. 2. Approves the proposal to temporarily close the side roads off the roads to be closed for up to 100 metres from the intersection for safety purposes. And 3. Delegates to the Chair of Infrastructure Committee and the General Manager Infrastructure the power to give public notice of these proposed temporary closures, to consider any objections, to either approve, cancel or amend any or all of the temporary road closures if applicable.
And Councillor Harding, you seconding this one? Yes. Okay.
I just want to talk to this one. This is probably highlights some really, really good work Council's done over a number of years. So major investment in Northern Event Centre, and work with some of the fellow councillors, Councillor Benny, Councillor Harding, and I are part of that group, that we said we're going to make that event centre really attractive to Super Rugby, various things. It's great reflection now. We've got a game this coming Saturday with Fiji playing the Blues, and this is the second Super game, and it's of high note that our stadium last year had the best playing service in New Zealand. They got accreditation for being the very best in the country. So it's good work all around, and this promotion helps us get the next game. So fully support it. Thank you.
Councillor Connor.
Thank you. it's not going to be a surprise again that I bring this up once again. It's great to have these events and it's great to have these things and road closures to happen. But can we assure that between the lower roundabout and the Dave Collin Drive roundabout that there is no parking on the footpaths, please, and stopping people from actually accessing this place, because there's no parking there anyway. And considering there's also development in the marina, there's less space, and yeah, it's a broken record. But until people actually stop doing it, I'm going to keep on bringing it up.
Okay. The team have noted that, and they are aware of the situations around that area, how being tight for parking. Councillor Yovich.
Question. As much as I appreciate hearing Councillor Holz's voice and his passion for rugby, we do have a game on this weekend. Why do we have this as an item every time, when we could have done this in bulk? It just, with nothing, I'll continue my comments. Nothing changes in this chamber. Is this a legal requirement, or why can we not be doing this in bulk? And because this game was set down many months ago, the same time when the Blues game was set down. So I don't know why we aren't planning things better and doing this in one. I have no objection to it, but we don't seem to change anything we do in this chamber.
Okay. What Councillor Yovich is getting to is there a process improvement in relation to the way the events are coming through to council so that they will be done in one?
Through the chair, we did process the applications as they came through. They did not come through together. It came through at a later date, so we processed it at a later date.
So, and just to highlight, Councillor Yovich, it is actually a legal requirement. We actually have to do this process each time, and if the team can get the applications all at the same time, they would process them all at the same time for us. So it's one of those things. We do have to wait for the people to do those applications. Some of the events I do know in the past have been fairly last minute events, even like the Anzac Parade. Getting the paperwork in on time sometimes is hard because they're dealing with volunteers.
That's an exception.
Yep.
This has been on the agenda with bookings for accommodation for months.
Your point's taken.
So, I mean, not you guys, but we need to shoot them, the rugby union and that, and get their stuff in order, because this is costing us a lot of time.
Your point's
unproductive. And in '83, I was listening to the same music. I was a lot younger than him, but nothing has changed. Doesn't seem to change.
Appreciate the comments there, Councillor Yovich. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Worship. Councillor Connop forgot one thing when he mentioned the lack of parking. Could we have the Cobham car park cleared of all camper vans and caravans, etc., etc.?
Councillor Reid, your point is taken, and the team do that as well. They do make sure that Common Oval is cleared for parking, so it is able to be done.
Sorry, through the chair, there is some discussion around the Cobham Oval at the moment. That is a little bit of a trick just because of how the bylaws are currently sitting. A lot of the responsibility falls back on the stadium if they do choose to apply for that application. I believe this time around they didn't go down that track, but as they have in the past.
I'd suggest just appealing to their good nature.
Point is taken, though. No other discussion. Councillor Holster, your right of reply.
Yes, Your Worship, just my eagle-eye colleague next to me has just pointed out that the Saturday, the 12th of April, is actually the 13th of April. Saturday is the 13th of April. So I've made an amendment to my motion that it includes Saturday, the 13th of April.
I think the team are feeling embarrassed by that and have taken note of that. Well done, councillors, for picking up on that.
Thank you. No right of reply, thank you.
Okay. Since there's no other right of reply, all those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 7.7 on page 73. And I have a Councillor Peters and Councillor Rooker, Councillor Peters is moving, Councillor Rooker is seconding it. Councillor Peters.
Well, I do know something about food, so I'm very happy to endorse this. Thank you.
Councillor, you actually need to read the whole motion.
Oh, that's right. So I do. The Whangarei District Council approves the temporary closure of the following roads to ordinary traffic for the Taste of Whangarei, a multicultural food fair, on the following dates in accordance with section 342 1B and Schedule 10, Clause 11 of the Local Government Act 1974. Thursday, the 21st of March 2024, Cameron Street, from the corner of John Street and Cameron Street to James Street. James Street, from Cameron Street to Roberts Street. Period of closure 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. 2. Approves the temporary closure of the side roads off the roads to be closed for up to 100 metres from the intersection for safety purposes. 3. Delegates to the chair of the Infrastructure Committee and General Manager Infrastructure the power to give public notices of these temporary road closures.
Thank you, Councillor Peters, for that. Well done. And it's been seconded by Councillor Roca. Would you like to speak to it now, or you're endorsing it, as you said before?
I'm endorsing it and looking forward to going down and having dinner. Thank you.
Any other comments from the councillors? No other comments? Councillor Olsen?
Again, and just a question, 3 p.m. that's to 10 p.m. that takes out 2 hours of business trading. Have the businesses been approached, and what was the feedback from them?
Through the chair, we are working currently with North Chamber, who's been approaching businesses. We haven't had a report back as of yet. It's just that the road will be closed to traffic on that one particular part. All other parks in the area will still be available, and parks that people that are already parked on the street will still have time to leave. So they shouldn't actually be affected until after time of business close.
Councillor Jovich?
Just picking up on a comment there, North Chamber. Just some feedback from what I understand when the cruise ship came in, that some of the businesses that tenant some of our properties, all they got was a bit of paper saying, put a poster up, but that was the amount of feedback that they actually got from the chamber or from council. So I do question the level of communications, and we probably do need to be a bit more thorough in terms of what is coming back and not just relying on what does come out of them. Thank you.
Points taken, Councillor Jovich. The team do try, I know they do try to work with the organisations who are organising the events to make sure that they do contact everyone. However, that is always a responsibility of the organisers. In relation to the cruise ships, which is a completely different matter, which is just referring to councils, it is also happening today. The cruise ship did come again in today, and I'm almost guaranteeing that Victoria and the team are probably going to leave here and race down there to make sure that they're at the Whangarei waterfront, making sure that everyone's well looked after. Councillors, that item is. Do you want to write a reply, Councillor, or you?
Just one thing that I'd like that relates to this and other events. We're very poor on signage, and signage on the. I know there's some trouble with signage on the main highways, but it would be really good if we can get around that and collaborate with them and have some decent signage and I've heard the comment also, signage from the people coming in the ships, signage from the waterfront to the central business district as well, this way. And maybe we've got control over that, I don't know. So collaborating with North Chamber or Northland Inc. about that would be great.
Appreciate that, Councillor. Councillor, it's been moved in second. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, we're going to have to go back to item 7.6. There was a recordation of the wrong date. It is actually the 12th of April, and it's actually a Friday. So technically, councillors, we are going to have to rescind the motion that we just did and redo the motion again. Councillor Hulse, are you prepared to rescind the motion? I will move the motion to rescind it, and Councillor Yovich will second. So to rescind the motion, because the date is recorded as actually wrong, we'll need 75% of our councillors to agree. All those in favour, please raise your right hand.
What else can you do?
Yep. It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. It's been rescinded. Now we'll move back to item 7.6 on page 63 with the correct wording in there, which is actually Friday, the 12th of. Yes, we've been confirmed that that is actually the correct date and time. It is actually Friday, the 12th of April. And Councillor Hulse is moving that, and Councillor Harding seconding that.
No, we've got more important things to move on.
For technically, do we need to? We need to read it again, doesn't he? No, he does not need to read it again. Just to make sure the date is changed to the Friday, the 12th of April. Make it very, very clear. He's managed to get off the chain on that one. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. I have to highlight that it is coming up to the 2-hour mark, and we are required to have a 2 or 5 minute standing break after 2 hours. So, councillors, can you just we'll pause the meeting for 5 minutes.
So sorry.
and that the streaming has started up again.
Nicholas.
Is the streaming started up again? Yep, there we go. Councillor Holmes, you are going to move item 7.8, which is on page 81.
I am, Your Worship. Thank you. So, the recommendation is that the council, 1, approves unbudgeted capital expenditure to undertake safety improvements on the Wharf Road wharf up to a value of $300,000, excluding GST, as part of activity 00094 Coastal Structures Renewal. And 2, notes that subject to council approval of budget, the contract will be awarded under Chief Executive's delegation, with works to commence as soon as practically possible.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. So it's been moved. Councillor McKenzie seconding it. Sounds like Councillor Holmes, would you like to speak to?
I will speak to this briefly. I'm taking the paper as read. So this is an application, a proposal to spend up to $300,000 to save money in the long term, because this would then come out of the long-term plan. So this is about a stitch in time. It's also in line with what the community have asked for. You will recall that we had a representative from the community came and presented to us last year, and this is about installing a timber overlay on this structure. So the structure is over 100 years old. It's historically and culturally significant, and I appreciate that the timing of this is not great. Clearly, we're under the cosh financially. All our council meetings focus very much on expenditure, as they should do. But this, if we do this now, we will actually save money. So I think this is a good decision for us to take, and will benefit ultimately the ratepayer. If we don't do this now, I feel there's a real danger that this historic structure will be lost forever, and it will get pushed back and pushed back and pushed back in the long-term plan. And I think it would be a real shame for the community if we lost this. This is not some wharf that you can tie a mega yacht up to. This is a local wharf that is used by local people for their local enjoyment and fishing. You'll see in the papers that we've tried to secure this from people using it over the last few months. We've put up fences and signs, and the fences and the signs have just been removed and taken down. So there is an immediate need to do something, and I strongly support this. Thank you.
Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Your Worship. Happy to second this motion and agree with everything that Councillor Holmes has expressed. I think, it's really important, the point that he raised about Parua Bay Resident Ratepayers Association coming in and presenting an alternative to what Council had proposed, a cheaper and faster to execute solution. And for me, this is really about listening to the community and the ideas that they have, and then actually taking those seriously. And that's what the team have done. They've taken an independent proposal that Parua Bay Resident Ratepayers Association have presented with their engineering advice, and they've taken it and run with it and come up with an even better solution with a more durable product that will last longer. And I agree with the statements around short-term cost but long-term savings. So it saves $1.2 million in the long term out of the long-term plan. So for those reasons, I am very much in support of the motion.
Thank you, Councillor McKenzie. Councillor Connor.
Thank you. In the agenda where it provides information about this GRP, the glass reinforced plastic, it states that it's been used on the Rose Street footbridge. I'm first of all just confused. What Rose Street footbridge is that? Because I'm not entirely sure.
Name on the one out the window here.
Lover's Lane.
Lover's Lane.
Sure. Yeah, through the chair. Lover's Lane. Apologies.
It's very confusing to be able to try and figure that one out. I'm
what's the price difference between the plywood use and this one? Because it says that in here as well that GRP is slightly cheaper than plywood, has a much longer life expectancy. So what is the cost difference on those two? And what form is the GRP going to be? Because you can either have a flat surface or going to have a kind of a hex kind of a surface. What type is it going to be? Because my concern is if people are taking any tackle boxes out there, it's going to get damaged, and this plastic and glass is going to go into the environment. It's then going to pollute the environment, get into the shellfish that's out there, into the fish life, and then it's going to go into the people that are actually getting the fish out of that. So I'm concerned about that environmental impact. And is this structure going to be put in over top, or is it going to be construction on site? And what is the containment of this plastic glass stuff that is going to be put up and used? What is the containment for?
Okay, so that's a technical question which I'm going to hand across to the team to be able to answer that one. You better use the microphone there.
Through the chair. The price
microphone.
Sorry. The price difference is around $3,000. So we had one of the contractors have given us a proposal to put either the plywood or the GRP. So it's about $3,000, so about 3% out of the materials cost. What was the other question in terms of what it looks like? So the GRP comes in 3 types of forms. There's a flat sheet, which we've got the tenders constructing. Those sheets are slightly heavier than what's been used on the Lovers Lane Bridge, which is a mesh one. And I agree with you. Some of the contractors have come back with a concern that if we use the mesh, that stuff will drop through and then sit underneath it and accumulate there. So we've actually got prices for both, with our preference going for the flat surface.
And I think the other question was the life expectancy.
Well, no, not life expectancy, but if somebody damages this stuff. So if, let's say somebody brings out a head.
So technically life expectancy, but also in relation to damage to it. How easy is it to be able to be damaged?
It's a very hard product. It's used at the treatment plants, wastewater treatment plant for odour control panels that are walked on, and it's used quite often on walkways and that. It has a life expectancy of 25 years.
It's not what it says in here.
From UV and
it says 10 years.
Cause problems for plywood.
And the last question was, is this a paneling that just gets put on site, or is it going to be cut off site and put on, or how is it going to be installed, please?
Again, a technical question, which is, can you move the microphone a little closer to you? That's it.
Through the chair. So the way they're constructing it, they have beams that sit across the top of the piles, and then spanning those beams is the panels. They're about, I think they're around about 80 mils thick, and they get just carried on and placed on top of the beams, and then there's a bracket that goes through and holds them onto the beam.
Just through the chair, subject to the decision of this chamber, there would be a management plan for the construction, so that would include the environmental management plan, just to address your concern there.
Okay, so we're now going to move on to Councillor Olsen.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've got a couple of questions. It says that you've received quotes. These prices are yet to be finalised. However, it is anticipated the final construction costs using GRP, and if we could have had glass reinforced plastic right at the beginning, I wouldn't have had to read through and find out what it meant. But that it will be in the order of 250,000. In the order of. So what's going to happen if it goes over 300,000?
It won't.
Councillor, so the motion, we must focus on what the motion is at the moment. So the motion is for it to 300,000 plus just. So if anything comes above that, then the staff are required to come back to us. However, they are making a conscious effort to actually try and save money all the time and to try and find better costs. So they're putting a buffer in there as a just in case. Yet they are reassuring us regularly. Jim is nodding his head. He is reassuring us that they are always trying to find more cost-effective ways of doing things.
And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep. Councillor Harding.
On the same vein, so tautoko the project, the coastal structural renewals budget has only got a little bit left in it, and it doesn't include this kaupapa. So are we reaching into our pockets earlier to grab from what's planned years ahead to spend now? Is that because, like, where are we paying for that today? Where are we going to pay that from?
Yeah, I mean through the chair, that's effectively what we're doing. I think in the previous long-term plan there was a budget assigned for those renewals. Historically, we don't have we have a handle on the state of our assets, but I think what is tending to happen, and we're seeing this in different places, is that with certain weather events, and in the example of Peru Bay pontoon, which again that wasn't expected, we sometimes have to react to events. In this instance, we have a immediate health and safety threat. So there is life in the piers, but the slab that's on top is failing, and we can't stop people getting on top of it. And there is a duty of care there to do something. So that's probably why we are having to reach forward. But essentially, that's what we need to that's what we need to do. And by putting in place this solution that the community has generated, it's going to save us some of that money in the long term plan. But when we come back to the long term plan, we'll be able to take out that 1.4 million and think about, well, how do we deal with this situation going forward? We do need to be more proactive in this space. We shouldn't be getting to the point where something fails before we do something, and that's why we've got a new coastal activity in the LTP so that we can be more proactive in this space.
Kapai, thank you. And just to clarify that, we're reaching forward, we're taking stuff, because in the end run, we won't need as much money going forward and use 3 and 4. But so where do we get it from now? Like, whose project does it come out of right now if it's unbudgeted for? Sorry.
It's so I don't know if Alan will say, but it's unbudgeted spend, so it would be it's a capex project, so we're coming out of debt. But I'll let Alan come and speak to it.
Sorry, Alan, use the other mic.
Through the chair, any unbudgeted spend we have to manage within council overall cash flow. The reality is that because we have a lot of carry forward projects, we've got easily enough money within our current debt budget to accommodate this. And we end up doing a true-up later on, but we can cover that with planned cash flow.
Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Worship. I fully support this, but I do note page 83, under 4.1, second paragraph, a budget of 300k is required, and that was kind of where I was happy with the figure being as a maximum, not exclusive of GST. Just noting that if it does exceed 300,000, I will certainly be wanting to know why. And the fact that it's set aside in the LTP means it is there and it can be moved around through that space. And I cannot, for the life of me, see any reason why we shouldn't use it. I am quite happy with the material that's being used. It doesn't contain the glue that plywood does. So I'm quite happy with that fact. And it's probably less likely to walk off the wharf as well. So yeah, happy with that. And we do have another project that's come to light, as this one has, through local input. We have another one that will be coming to us shortly. I will be working with the councillors concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Connor, you have a question or a statement?
Yep, just another little question.
Yeah.
This is going to be dealing with the fact that people going onto this is going to be a safety issue and dealing with that. With the fact that people can still get under it and kayak under it and swim under it, are we going to install warning signs on the side of it? They shouldn't be taken off because they're out of the way, they're on the side. But people will and do, because I've gone under things myself before in the past, go under this. So when we are doing this, can we get some warning signs ensuring that there are no concrete chunks falling on people without awareness?
I can note that the staff are noting that down. Jim is nodding that those are part of the normal everyday operational. Okay. Councillor Olsen.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'm going to 4.1. This will be a capital project which will extend the life of the asset for at least 10 years. Did you say the longevity of the GRP was 25 years? So is that just extending the life of the wharf, or is that the overall product?
Through the chair, the product itself will last 25 years. That's the idea, but I guess it's in a situation where there's potentially changes to what's happening underneath in the concrete. So our estimate here is that what we're doing now will give us another 10 years use of that structure, at which time we have to decide whether it needs a full rebuild or demolition.
Fairly self-explanatory with that one, but that's well done for asking. No other questions. We'll move to Councillor Holmes. You would like your right of reply?
I would just briefly. So I think reiterate what I said before. I mean, the timing of this is lousy. I do appreciate that, but I do believe that for the reasons I outlined at the beginning, it's the right thing to do. I think my sort of closing feeling about this is, I mean, we don't want to be the council that knows the cost of everything and the value of nothing, because there's great value in this to the community, and I strongly support it, and I would urge you all to. Thank you.
The right of reply has been had. All those in favour, please. All those in favour, say aye. Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 7.9, and I believe Councillor Benny has got his name down for moving this one, and it looks like he's seconded by Councillor Mackenzie.
The recommendation is that the council resolves to endorse in principle the locations for secured bike parking in Whangarei City. 2, to approve the private-public partnership procurement option for implementation and management of secured bike parking in Whangarei City. 3, delegate to Chief Executive, CE, to negotiate and sign the agreement between Council and Locky Dock for secured bike parking in Whangarei City.
Since it's been seconded, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, I would. Just really briefly, this has been a long time coming. I thank Pat for all his work he's done on this. I note that it is, in principle, the locations for secured bike parking. I think there is still a debate to go on with that, and I look forward to some sort of consultation in regards to that, especially with Councillor Mackenzie and I on the walking and cycling strategy. I think there is some more consultation to go into that. The Whangarei City one, we are more than a central city. There is more to it, but again, this is a very good product. I've done a bit of homework on it, and it looks like it is a quality product that will enhance our bike parking in Whangarei City, and hopefully to other areas as well. I will note that when we built this building, we put a bike park out the back here in the car park. Originally in Forum North, there was 2 or 3 bikes every day there. I see that it's overflowing there now, and Alan, you may have to look at a bigger bike parking for that if you could, please. So I just note that. So build it and they will come. And I think this is a product, a quality product that is free to the ratepayer, other than the original capital investment. It is free for the bike user, the ratepayer to use, and I think that's a huge selling point for it. So I would encourage councillors to support this, and let's get on with it and get them in before Christmas.
Thank you, Councillor Benny. Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you, Worship. Just like to thank the staff and the Walking and Cycling Advocacy Group for all the work that they've done in getting this motion to us today. There's been a lot of work that's gone on in the background. This is endorsed by the Walking and Cycling Advocacy Group, so it's sort of had that filter. Council has invested significantly in its shared path network, but at the moment people don't have very many options for where to park their bikes when they use that network. So just like
when you drive your car into town, you need to find a car park. When you ride your bike into town, you need to find a bike park. And some of these bikes that people use, e-bikes, are worth several $1,000s, and so you want to find a place to park it securely, and that's what these offer. So that, you know, they're particularly secure, very high quality design. They're attractive, and the team have been through and figured out the placement of these. And I know it's subject to some change, but with regard to making sure that they're allowing for pedestrian access past them, that has been carefully considered by the team in each instance. And it's also been through a walking sort of advocate on that committee who's been making sure that, you know, the paths are free for pedestrians to use without being obstructed. Importantly to note, this is a public-private partnership, which is the way that this new government is heading. And I think, you know, we pay as the council for the capital cost of 5 of these bike racks, and we get 15, which it seems like a pretty good deal to me. It's up to 150 bike parks. Each bike rack can be extended up to 10 bike parks. They're highly secure. They have plugs so you can charge your EVs, and they're free to the user. The way that they are paid for is by advertising, and this advertising, we have been assured, it will be age appropriate and generally positive in nature. It also allows for council to do some of its own advertising on their wayfinding for its network, shared path network, so people actually know where they can ride in the city. So generally very supportive of this. Thanks again for all the work that's been done. It's an excellent result, and it'll mean vital infrastructure for the cycle network in our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McKenzie. Connor.
Thank you. Question, please. Page 105, we've been provided with a map in this document, which is different from the briefing document, and it shows over 30 of the Sheffields that are proposed to go into this location, into central city of Whangarei. What is the anticipated time frame of the installation of these, please?
That's a technical question for Pat, Nick, or Jim.
Through the chair, the program for that is within this financial year, so by June, with the remaining budget allowed for within the LTP for secured bike parking. The map, correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, is of the probable locations, not necessarily all of those will be able to afford. We'll need to work through that as we design and procure the Sheffields, which are the U-bars, similar to what's in at Putahi Park by the toilet.
Through the chair, I think what we will do is through our operations report, we'll continue to, I think we need to move to more of an outcome-based report so that we can talk about how many bike packs have we got, how full are they, and therefore we can start to invest at the right time to provide more capacity. I think that's one of the benefits of this particular product, is that we start to get more of that information available to us, so we can, so as Nick says, what's on the plan is what we think we need to implement over time. But the reality is we may end up with much more of a demand, and we need to plan more spaces and more capacity.
I'll just make a couple of comments. I'll limit to myself to some of this. First of all, with the map that's provided on here, even with the date that it has on here, there are already bike parks in some of the locations, the Sheffields in these locations, yet they're saying proposed. So we need to make sure that information is clearly being provided, that it is accurate, because if it's already there, it's already there. What we're missing out on much of this is the fact that we have Whangarei at the end of a shared path. We have Raumanga beginning to be at the end of a shared path. We have all these other locations that need these facilities as well. There are people out there, there are students out there who also have these needed for basic facilities, not necessarily the Locky Dock ones, but just in those locations. Comments that I've had from people around the district in my past is that the issue that they have is location visibility. They don't want to park it off to the side, out of the way. They want to have it in a relatively people-centric place, so that the amount of people there actually deter the issues that come from it. One of the other things that we have fantastically about Te Iwitahi, our new building here, is that we actually do have bike parking for the public right up front, inside the front door. People don't know this because it's not as well advertised, but there are easily over 10 bike parks directly outside the front door, which also need to be highlighted that there are a different form of parking and in a space that is also used. And I'm parking out there myself today. I would like to see more infrastructure around these things going into the city, around the district, so that we actually have the space for people and users to be able to get out there. I have concerns with the advertising regardless of what advertising it is. We are already being bombarded by advertising everywhere. People are getting glazed over to the fact that they don't look at advertising because there's so much of it out there. And so frequently when we have long-term plans, they don't see the advertising that we put out. I appreciate that the advertising that is on some of these structures are limited to not showing fossil fuels and such and those type of things, but it's another screen that's out there, it's another thing that's in your face, and another issue. I have other concerns, but I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Olsen.
Thank you. I support this. My only concern, and it's not a question, it's a statement, is, well, can you please just consider the disabled when you're placing these, that they're not going to be an obstruction to people on mobility scooters or in wheelchairs. But I am supportive. Thank you, and great work.
Councillor Harding. You've turned your mic off.
Sorry. Yeah, I support this too, and I apologise if I've missed this. But how much will it cost to buy the council's contribution for the 5? I don't know if we saw it earlier, but it just keeps saying that it'll be within the available budget, which is 323,000. And you heard us before around saying, do we have to hit that target?
Through the chair, it's about 260 for the 5, so they're roughly about 52,000 each.
Thank you.
Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I also support this strongly, and I just want to thank the team for the work that you put into this. I mean, clearly Pat starts off with an advantage with a great name like Patrick, so there's no reason, no surprises that he's done a great job on this. I also support the fact that it is a PP personal private public partnership. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you. I had a senior moment there for a moment. So I think that is the way to go forward, and I think we are getting better value for that. I'm not really concerned about the advertising. I think we can deal with that. But I think it is one of those projects that build it and they will come. We need to encourage greater usage of cycling and walking. I think this will be part of a much larger package of improvements within the city, and overall it will increase the livability of the city. So I'm very supportive. Thank you.
Councillor House.
Thank you, Worship. My thing is I support the motion, but I'd like to have our staff kind of extend the scope of it. I think if you go down to Marsden Cove and One Tree Point, you've probably got a higher ratio of bike riders than anywhere else across the district. I think we should definitely be looking at putting one down there, around the marina somewhere. But certainly in use down there, they've got a rally down there this Sunday where all the bike people are going to turn up, and something like this would be really good news for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor House. Gentlemen, look, the motion that's been put forward, it's fairly concise, and again, it's been highlighted the PPP option, which is again the most preferred option by council to try and make a project work. I'm glad that Councillor Olsen has already highlighted about the disabled. I flagged that when it came to the scooters, and I still see issues with the scooters. So I'm leaning to the cause here to say, I'm actually not in favour of this, because if I've seen the response from the scooters, I don't have faith that I'm going to see a good response from these. So I am making it very, very clear. We have a disabled community, an elderly community, who is struggling to get around our district. And if these things are put in places where they will trip over them and block them, then I will make noise. Councillor Peters.
Endorsing your point, Mr. Mayor, I support this, but I note that at the last term of council, we heard from the scooter people that there were going to be marked scooter parking places, and that has not happened. My question is, could it, please? Because I see them, blocking pathways up on the way you go up to Monu. There's often people parked in weird places and parked and fallen over. I mean, we've got to have some system.
Okay, councillors, no other speakers. Okay, we'll move to Councillor Benny to have his right of reply.
I didn't intend to, but after hearing that you disagree with it and seeing that recent video, I'm not surprised why. But thank you to staff for that. Thank you, Nick and Pat, for your work. Let's get on with it.
Councillors, the right of reply has been had. All those in favour? Any opposed? I will record, and Councillor Connaught abstains, and I'll have mine recorded against. Councillors, we'll move on to item 710, page 113. And I believe Councillor Holmes has got his name down to doing this one.
I do, Your Worship. Thank you. So, the recommendation is that the Council, 1, notes the report of the independent facilitator. 2, declines the request for a development agreement with no further work being done. 3, notes that staff from Infrastructure and the Northland Transport Alliance, NTA, will continue to work with Port Newcow joint venture on the possibility of a separate infrastructure funding agreement for areas of Port Road outside the Port Newcow development area. 4, notes that infrastructure staff will separately review additional information provided by Port Newcow joint venture in relation to the historic upgrade of the wastewater line and pump under the Logyard Road consent. 5, notes that while this decision does not preclude a further proposal, with any proposal being considered on its merits, A, the requirements outlined within the Independent Facilities Report and this agenda are likely to remain key considerations in any future development agreement request, and B, any grant should be part of a properly developed policy with defined contestable criteria. And 6, notes that a decision to approve the request in the current form could trigger significance, including the need for consultation.
And I believe Councillor Cooper, you're seconding this. Councillor Holmes, would you like to speak to this?
I will speak to this, just a bit of background, really. So this particular proposal, I understand, has been in various forms, has been kicking around council for many years. And I see Dom's online now, so I think Dom has got a lot of the background to this. And at the commencement of this iteration of council, we formed a working group, a small working group of elected members. So it's myself, Councillor Olsen, and Councillor Cooper. And the purpose of that group was to ensure governance oversight, not to dive into the detail or mess with the management process in that. It was purely to provide what we should be doing as governors, which is governance oversight, which I believe we've done. And part of that was showing to developers that they had a direct route to speak to councillors and ensuring that we were doing our job as a governance body and providing oversight. So therefore, hopefully improving levels of confidence. So as part of this process, the independent facilitator was appointed and approved by all bodies to look at the process. and you've got the report in front of you, and hopefully you will have read that. And I think from a governance point of view, we've done exactly what was required of us in terms of ensuring that there was a level of independence and oversight, and we are where we are now. So with that, I'll hand over to Dom and the team to walk you through it. Thank you.
Dom, do you have anything else to add to what Councillor Holmes has already said? Okay. Councillors, any comments? Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Your Worship. As Councillor Holmes mentioned, both Councillor Olsen and I joined him on that little working group. In the previous iteration of council to this one, there had been a frustration from many people in town that when they wanted, if they felt that they weren't getting a fair deal with council, they wanted the recourse to go to an independent person to oversee whatever it was that they were not feeling, that they were feeling aggrieved about. In this case, it's developer agreement. We have fulfilled that obligation, and we've provided that independent person. It is not to say that it is the end of the story, and I draw people's attention to notes point 3, that the Northern Transport Alliance continue to work with Port Nikau, and note 4, the infrastructure staff will separately review additional information. I think it's incredibly important that we provide people who are willing to work for the betterment of our city the opportunity to work with us and understand their challenges and their aspirations, and sort of try to figure out a way to facilitate a result that benefits us all. At the same time, we have to be cognizant of the fact that we have policies. In this case, it's our development contribution policy. It's put in for a reason. It stood us in good stead, and it must be beyond reproach and be applied fairly across the board. And that is what the independent person has said that we are doing. So I think the staff can take some comfort from the fact that the independent person has backed up their approach. Thank you very much. I think we as council elected members should note that. However, I do reiterate that when there are people who come to us with significant or otherwise, actually, it may not be that significant, but if anyone comes to us who wants to better this city, we should be trying hard as a council to be a yes council, and how can we help you to achieve that within the constraints that we and the policies that we work under. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor Jovich.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I totally understand in terms of the process. I think it's, reading through what has been undertaken. It's a pity we can't get this across the line. I think a few of us requested a little bit cheeky, but that's Tony. God love him. In terms of note 3 and 4 and the committee that we have in place, I don't like the wording that it says it notes that staff will do this. I mean, we really need to get some traction on this, and either way, and I just seeing what is our timeframes, what is in terms of the process. Does it go back to our 3 esteemed members for review? Because we just don't want to be kicking this along the track for the next couple of years, because there's some great assets down there that we should be, as Councillor Cooper said, be encouraging it to happen. Whereas this is very so in terms of the process, and that does concern me, and I'm sure that Tony and or the venture will actually take that up online with other councillors, and when it's not suiting them, but hopefully we can do something a little bit different.
The point's been taken there, Councillor Jovich. Dominic, have you got anything to add to that? Or is it Jim who's going to add?
Yeah, just talking about point 3 in terms of the transport. I think what we just acknowledge through the chair, your point, Councillor. I think we do need to do things and be proactive. What we've got in the draft long-term plan is that improvement along Port Road. So the work that Jeff and the team have been doing is just to get alignment around what that design looks like and get some of those approvals moving forward. We then need to make sure that we've got the right project with the right budget in the long-term plan so that we can collect the appropriate development contributions. And then that means that when it comes to who might build it and how we might pay for that, there are some options there to be looked at. But I think that's where we need to get ahead of the curve.
Councillor Holtz?
Yes, I'm a bit disappointed to read this agenda item. There's really good intention at the start, and I certainly acknowledge the work that our council has done on it. It's a good start that we actually really look seriously at this, and results are what they are. But I just want to go back and just reflect on the development agreement we had in Marsden Point with all the major developers tied into one. That added significantly to our planning of the Marsden Point structure plan and all the development down there. And because our managers only had to deal with one contact, we had a similar story going through all the developers in the area. Here, we once again have isolated people, with no certain backup. So it's a difficult one. I know Councillor Deeming, former Councillor Deeming, and I spent a considerable amount of time with the developers forming that agreement to make sure it worked. And it was very successful, and council was able to put the major infrastructure, even some of the ones we're talking about now, the ocean outfall, that all come out of that original agreement. In this case, if you look forward, the amount of houses they're putting down Port Nikau, that'll probably add $600,000 more in residential rates per year. That's what they've got planned now. And so every now and again, we've got to be a bit bold and actually say, yes, this is a refining, but how can we tie the projects together more efficiently? And we all know, we've had a discussion on items today in the agenda, council we should get out of the construction business, full stop, because everything we do is over budget, not scoped right, and we've got to top up the budgets, just about everything we do. And yet we get private developers who actually do this at their own cost. They've got to keep their budgets, their costings to costings, and actually drive efficiency. So I think there's a lot of learnings we're missing out on here. And I think we should be a bit more supportive of when people come in here. We've got to get to a can-do council. We've got to say, you do this, we do that, but we're going to work together and make sure it happens. This delay, like basically what we're saying now, we're going back to what we've got in place. We've had in place all the time. We all know it hasn't worked. So, we're back to where we were. So, sort of make those points quite clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holtz. Yes, I will acknowledge that you've been involved with the Bream Bay along with previous Councillor Deeming, getting the Bream Bay stuff sorted, and it was a lot of hard work at the time to get these things sorted. And I don't think there's any hesitation to say that the councillors who are on this in relation to Port Nikau have not put the hours in as well to be involved in trying to make this work. I think that needs to be highlighted. There has been a lot of time from both sides to get things to actually work, even including from the staff. Councillor Reid, have you got?
Yes, Your Worship. Not sure whether I'm quite on the right track here, but we'll give it a crack anyway. I'd like to move an amendment that number 1 stays as it is. Number 2, Council declines this request for a development agreement. Number 3, that staff from infrastructure and NTA will continue work with Port Nikau joint venture on the possibility of a separate infrastructure funding agreement for areas of Port Road outside of the Port Nikau development area. Number 4, just remove notes and leave the rest. And 5, removes
notes that while and leave everything else in place. The intention is that we don't slam the door in his face.
Okay, so just to make sure I've got that correct, just to make sure I got the understanding, the intention of the amendment here. So 1 stays the same, 2 changes the word from that to this.
Yep. Leave with no further work being done. That comes off.
That comes off, right? Yep. So I'm just trying to make sure that's all up there as well.
Number 3, just
number 3
remove notes. Number 4, remove notes.
Yep.
5, remove notes that while.
Notes that while, and the rest all stays there, including number 6, which says notes that the decision to approve the request stays there. Okay. And Councillor Rooker is seconding that, right? Councillor Reid, should I speak to that?
As Councillor Cooper has told us, this has been a long, drawn-out process. I know Tony personally, and whilst he can be somewhat awkward to work with, he does what he does pretty well, and he's proven that time and time again. He's obviously trying to do something in the Port Nikau area to develop, obviously to make money. He would be silly if he wasn't. And I see a massive potential down there. We're talking the Navy and housing, and I just feel that if we just slam the door in his face, we might be making a rod for our own backs. So I'm just trying to keep the conversation alive.
Okay, appreciate that. Councillor, so we're going to have discussion now over the amendment. Councillor Connor.
Question on this: how does removing notes from this change that in any way, shape, or form? Because I mean, it starts at the top. It says the council notes that it's like, well, are we not being told about this?
You're asking for a wording, why the wording has changed. Look, Councillor, you can probably go through a lot of documents and look at wording and wording different ways. It is just a terminology. Again, this is the amendment that the councillors put up. So it's up to the councillors to debate that and to make a decision on that. Any discussions? Councillor Hulse.
Yeah, I'll just expand out, and I can sympathise with what Councillor Reid's trying to do, and I actually support what he's doing. If we go and leave it into isolated cases, the developer will come in here and he'll do what he wants for their subdivision. All right, we get no tangible benefits outside of his subdivision. What we're trying to do is to make sure when we go down Port Road, etc., we put the right size pipes in, we put all the facilities and all the infrastructure in that'll cope for further development as well, not just this one. And so that's why it's just crucial that we work with people. Absolutely crucial. Because, you know, how many times we've got to go and say, oh, this pipeline's too small, we've got to replace it, just because we didn't talk to the person at the end of the line. You know, we said we wanted to be supportive of business. Well, here's a good example. Thank you.
Councillors, we're just having a double check on, Carolyn, just a double check on the actual wording, because the wording may actually, again, which he needs to make sure the wording is correct. So just double check on that. Just hold, Councillor Harding, have you got something you want to talk to this? Or you want to wait for the wording to be corrected first?
It's just around the notes, the removal of notes.
So they're just double checking on that, okay? So, Councillor Reid.
Your Worship, I've been put in my place by our boss. Number 3, that in place of notes, we put requests.
Thank you.
Number 4, in place of notes, we put requests. And number 5, in place of notes that while, we put agrees. Thank you, Carol.
And this is the reason, councillors, I say again, this is the reason why we like to, motions on the fly, we like to make sure that they're actually done correctly. So sometimes it does pay to actually work with Carolyn and the team before you actually make your motion to make sure it's actually done properly. Thank you for clarifying that. Councillor Rookett, you are happy with that? Yep. Okay. Councillor Holmes.
So, look, I acknowledge what Councillor Reid and Councillor Hulse are trying to do. I think that's reasonable. And I suppose in reading the original motion, I didn't for a moment think anybody would interpret that as slamming the door in the face of this developer or any other potential developer, because clearly that's not what this council is about. And to reflect some of the comments around here, obviously we want to be a can-do council, and I believe we need to move in that direction. And if the relatively minor changes to the motion proposed by Councillor Reid help to reinforce that with the business community and the developer community, then I would support that. You know, this council, and I can speak certainly for the small subgroup we've got, is absolutely not anti-development or anti-developer. We are looking to find a way forward and make this work within an environment of it's very tricky and very complex. And I'd just like to commend the staff for the great work that they've done in guiding us in this complex area. So I'm kind of ambivalent. If it helps to send the right message, then I would support this amendment.
Actually, Councillor Reid, you can't speak now.
I'm just going to apologise for my poor choice of terminology.
It's all good, taking note. Is there any other discussion about the amendment? Councillor Harding, you had your hand up, you're now fine with it? Okay, cool. Okay, cool, appreciate that. So, councillors, we will have to move the amendment. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Okay, the amendment becomes a substantial. And we'll now move to Councillor Holmes to have his right of reply.
To be honest, I don't think there's any more I can add, Your Worship. So, no, happy to leave it there.
Okay. The right of reply has been had. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item.
Pardon me. What have we just passed? The original document?
No, the amendment has been added to it, councillor. Correct. Yep. Okay. Well, councillors, we're now just going to move on to item 8.1.117. I believe Councillor Reid, you've asked to move this one.
No, it's not.
177.
Thank you, Your Worship. I get the short one. Recommendation that Council notes the decision made by Chief Executive under delegation during the 2023-2024 Christmas recess period.
Do Councillor Connop seconds that? Councillor Reid, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. This came about due to the change from the $3.5 million sign-off to 10. I will note that I probably have been somewhat remiss here because I was the only chair that was consulted. My fellow chair was not. No doubt there will be some discussion on that. But it's for the betterment of the community, and we needed to get this signed off so that we could get the contractors into the job. And we have made it clear that we wanted them to use the least occupied side of the street, which they have agreed to do. So we will cause minimum disruption to the maximum number of businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Councillor Jovich.
Question. 6.1. The 21st of December 2023 minutes that were passed, and 7.5. Are we as Councillor Reid alluded to, we had 6 points and we had a amendment to 3. As part of the process, that delegate the power to make urgent decisions was to go to either the mayor or deputy mayor, the chairperson of the finance, infrastructure, strategy, planning and development, community development, or Te Karere strategic partnership standing committees. We've just heard apparently that one person was spoken to in terms of point 1. If this is the case, we cannot pass this motion. We have standing orders and processes that have been blatantly ignored by our management. And so coming back to the question, if we read our minutes from 7.5, when was the original decision made to satisfy point 1? Thank you.
And it's a fair point, Councillor Jovic. I will say that I was in discussion with the CE about this. He actually did inform me about this project, and he did inform me that this was one of the ones that he was concerned about that was going to come through. He couldn't give me an exact time when it was going to come through, but he was concerned about it coming through within that recess period. So he did actually highlight it with me as the mayor. So I was well aware of it coming through.
What date was that highlighted to you, Your Worship?
That was actually highlighted to me on the day of the motion. Yes, and that's right. He also didn't mention it on the day of when Simon actually had to come in and sign it as well. So again, it was preempted to me as the mayor, so I was aware of it coming up. As I said, there was about 3 contracts the CE was concerned about. There was only one that actually came through in that time period, which was as I said, the first one he mentioned to me on the day of the motion. However, he also mentioned when it actually got signed by Simon as well.
So why are the documents not prepared correctly to satisfy the resolution that we sit in here on urgency in the last minute of the year to get things done, and we're not getting things done correctly? And this is endemic across our organisation and the flow-on effect in terms of the mediocrity that we have. And it's not good enough.
Point has been taken, and it has actually been highlighted. Simon, you want to make comment to that?
We did check it off with Simon Reid, also His Worship, the Mayor. That should have stated that was the case in the actual agenda. That should have been stated in the agenda. But the Mayor was also informed on the day.
So, the fact that the agenda has actually that information missing from it. Okay, so Councillor Peters.
Just thank you to Simon Weston and the team for working hard over Christmas.
Point's been taken.
I'd just like to make a statement.
Yep.
Again there, show me, don't tell me. So for that effect, I will still be voting against it because, okay, respect you, Your Worship, but again there, I'm being told, I'm not being shown. I had enough.
Yep, absolutely fair comment to that. Councillor Benny.
It's an interesting point. What is the legality of that? And that's a point that I'd like to take. I mean, are we quite happy that although the process hasn't been, we passed a resolution, I'm just concerned as the legality of the decision made.
Yep.
Question for that.
Yep, that's again wise words of wisdom coming from to the right of me here. We will make a note in the minutes that now, Carolyn, the exact words you had there were note in the agenda, in the minutes of the agenda, that that the chief executive consulted with the mayor needs to be noted in those minutes, as well as with Councillor Reid. And that will just be in following up of the minutes that are recorded today to make it proper and correct. However, on saying that Councillor Benny and Councillor Jovic have highlighted process. The original motion, if I remember correctly, was written, and I did concern at the time on the fly. And again, I stress, this is why I don't like motions written on the fly unless we can actually get it done correctly. And I was very conscious of that at the time, and I made it very clear to the councillors that we need to make sure things are clearly lit off. It does comply with 1, yes. Councillor Hulse.
I just want to back what Councillor Yeo said. He's our head of finance, and this is a big contract. You know, it's not hard to put an email or contact out, especially when it was recorded why we set that committee up. And so you've got the chair and deputy chair of finance not being contacted. So we want to make that quite clear. Thank you.
And I appreciate the comments being made on that. We need to make sure that those minutes are recorded correctly and make sure that it is the complete process is followed. Okay. No other comments. Councillor Reid, you moved the motion. Do you have right reply?
I think less said the better, Your Worship.
Okay. Right of reply has been had. All those in favour? Any opposed? You'd like it recorded? Councillor Jovich and Councillor Hulse. And Councillor Olsen. It has been approved. Councillors, we're now at the point of the meeting where we're now going to move into confidential. Councillor Peters is moving us. Councillor Olsen is seconding.